Close your eyes and listen beyond the walls of your world. There is a place where the wind screams in a language of ice, and the stars are so bright they seem to hum. It is 1750, deep in the frozen heart of Northern Lapland. You are standing in a desert of white, a vast lunar landscape where the breath freezes in your throat. But then you see it, a flicker of gold against the indigo snow, a lavvu, a sanctuary of reindeer skin and ancient wisdom. As you step inside, the brutal Arctic winter vanishes, replaced by a wave of heat that smells of pine resin, wood smoke, and the deep, comforting scent of leather. Here, the world is reduced to a single circle of stones and a dancing flame. You are not just a traveler, you are safe. Wrapped in thick, heavy furs, you watch a craftsman's hands. They are weathered, strong, and steady. In his grip is a piece of mountain birch, a wood that has survived a century of storms just to reach this moment. He holds a small, razor-sharp blade, and as he makes the first cut, the sound is like a secret whispered in the dark. Slice, pop, hiss. This is the beginning of a journey into the soul of the north in this tent. Time has no meaning. The sun has abandoned the sky for the season, leaving only the emerald ghosts of the aurora to dance overhead. But inside there is warmth. There is the rhythmic, hypnotic carving of a spoon that will tell the story of a forest. Can you feel the weight of the wool blanket on your shoulders? Can you smell the rich broth simmering over the embers? Leave the modern world behind. Sink into the furs. The fire is bright, the knife is sharp, and the night is long. Let the carving begin. The fire reaches a state of perfect equilibrium, a glowing core of deep crimson embers that radiates a heat so consistent it feels like a physical weight against your skin. The craftsman reaches for a bundle of dried horsetail plants, nature's own sandpaper. In 1750, the luxury of manufactured abrasives is unknown here. Instead, the land provides. The silica-rich stems of the plants are used to rub the wood, transitioning the spoon from a faceted carved object into something smooth and tactile. The sound changes from the crisp slice of the blade to a soft, rhythmic shush-shush as the fibers of the birch are polished. This stage of the work requires a different kind of patience. It is the transition from function to beauty. You watch his thumbs move in circular motions, pressing the dried stalks into the grain, smoothing away the tiny ridges left by the puko. As the wood becomes smoother, it begins to develop a soft sheen, reflecting the firelight like a piece of polished bone. The atmosphere in the lavvu has become thick with a sense of timelessness. The heavy reindeer skins that form the walls act as a perfect acoustic insulator. The screaming Arctic wind is reduced to a low melodic hum, like the drone of a distant bagpipe. This creates a psychological barrier between the here and the there. Here there is life, warmth, and creation. There in the blue-black darkness is the indifferent frost that could freeze a man's blood in minutes. This contrast is the secret to the deep peace you feel. It is the joy of the survivor. The craftsman pauses to adjust the cast-iron pot, moving it slightly further from the direct flame so the broth can simmer at a whisper. He looks at you, the firelight catching the deep-set wrinkles around his eyes, and offers a small, knowing nod. It is an invitation to share in this stillness, to acknowledge that in this moment, nothing else in the world matters more than the smoothing of this wood. The handle of the spoon is now taking on its final form. It features a slight flare at the end, a traditional Sami design that allows the hand to grip it securely even when wearing thick woolen mittens. He begins to contemplate the kohlrosing, a decorative technique where fine lines are incised into the wood and then rubbed with a mixture of charcoal and fats to create dark, permanent patterns. He holds the spoon up, turning it slowly. The birch grain, once hidden beneath bark and sapwood, now swirls across the bowl like the very mists that roll over the North Cape. Before he continues, he reaches for a small wooden cup, a causa already darkened by years of coffee and broth, and dips it into a water bucket filled with melted snow. He takes a slow drink, the water clicking in his throat, and wipes his mouth with the back of a calloused hand. This simple act of hydration is a reminder of the elemental nature of life in 1750. Every drop of water, every splinter of wood, and every spark of fire is earned through labor and respect for the environment. If you find yourself drifting into this world of frost and fire, if the sound of the carving brings a sense of quiet to your soul, consider joining our journey more often. Subscribe to our channel to find your way back to these moments of historical peace, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a night by the fire in the old world. Your support helps us keep these stories alive, preserving the quiet crafts of the past for the busy world of the present. He sets the water cup down and picks up a much smaller, needle-like blade. It is time for the soul of the spoon to be etched into its surface. The patterns he chooses are not random. They are symbols of the sun, the tracks of the reindeer, and the protective spirits of the hearth. Each line is a prayer for a bountiful season and a safe journey through the dark months. You lean in closer, the warmth of the hearth brushing your face, as the first delicate mark is made. The needle-thin blade sinks into the smooth birch with a precision that seems almost supernatural in the dim, flickering light. The craftsman is now beginning the coal-rosing. Unlike deep carving, this is an art of the surface, a shallow incision that barely breaks the skin of the wood, yet leaves a mark that will last for generations. He moves the tool with a steady hand, tracing geometric lines that represent the ancient maps of his people. There are no rulers here, no compasses, only the steady eye and the muscle memory of a man who has lived in harmony with the horizon since he could walk. The first pattern emerges, a series of interlocking diamonds, symbolizing the resilience of the reindeer herds that are the lifeblood of this land. The air inside the lavvu has grown even more fragrant. The moisture from the fresh birch shavings on the floor is being drawn out by the heat of the fire, releasing a crisp autumnal scent that battles with the savory richness of the stew. You watch a bead of sweat roll down the craftsman's temple. Despite the freezing temperatures outside, the center of the tent is a pocket of summer. He wipes his brow with a piece of rough spun wool and returns to his work. The focus is hypnotic. To watch him is to understand that in 1750, a tool was never just a tool, it was a testament to one's character. A poorly made spoon would be a sign of a rushed mind, a lack of respect for the tree that gave its life, and a disregard for the hand that would hold it. He reaches into a small pouch made of salmon skin, pulling out a pinch of fine black dust, ground charcoal mixed with a bit of rendered reindeer fat. He rubs this dark paste into the fresh incisions he has just made. As he wipes away the excess with a scrap of leather, the pattern suddenly leaps into view. The pale birch is now etched with deep black lines that look like frozen lightning. It is beautiful. The contrast between the cream-colored wood and the dark charcoal is a reflection of the landscape itself, the white snow against the black rocks of the mountains. The rhythm of the night continues. Outside, a sudden gust of wind slams against the lavvu, causing the reindeer hides to groan and the poles to flex. A small puff of smoke is forced back down the smoke hole, swirling around the interior before being sucked back up by the draft of the fire. The craftsman doesn't even flinch. He is a part of this environment as much as the birch or the reindeer. He knows the strength of his home. He knows that as long as the fire is fed, the world inside remains unconquerable. He begins to work on the bowl of the spoon now, thinning the walls even further. He holds the spoon up to the flames, checking its translucency. The wood is so thin in the center of the bowl that the orange light of the fire glows through it, turning the birch into a warm, radiant amber. It looks fragile, yet you know that the density of the slow-grown Arctic birch makes it as tough as horn. He uses his thumb to feel for any microscopic burrs, his touch as light as a feather. The silence is broken only by the occasional shift of a log in the hearth and the soft, rhythmic breathing of the craftsman. You find your own eyelids growing heavy, the safety of the tent, the steady warmth, and the repetitive artistic movements of the hands before you are a powerful sedative. It is a rare thing, in any century, to feel this completely protected. There is no noise from machines, no pressure of time, no flickering of artificial lights. There is only the ancient golden glow of the fire and the slow, steady creation of a masterpiece. He picks up a piece of antler, using it as a burnisher to rub the surface of the wood until it shines with a natural glassy luster. The spoon is nearly finished, a perfect fusion of nature's raw material and human intent. The spoon is now a gleaming, tactile object, its surface so smooth it feels like silk beneath the craftsman's calloused thumb. He holds it by the handle, testing the balance. In the 1750s, a spoon must feel like an extension of the arm. It must be heavy enough to feel substantial, yet light enough to be used for hours without fatigue. He adjusts the angle of the neck, taking one final microscopic shaving from the underside. This is the soul cut, the final touch that ensures the spoon sits perfectly against the lip of a bowl. The wood falls away like a single lash from an eye, fluttering into the embers and vanishing in a tiny spark. You lean back into the reindeer furs, the thick hair of the skins prickling softly against your neck. The heat from the fire has a deep, infrared quality that seems to penetrate right to the bone, untying knots of tension you didn't even know you carried. Above, the smoke hole reveals a tiny patch of the Arctic night. The green fire of the aurora continues to pulse, a silent, celestial heartbeat that reminds you of the vastness of the world outside. But here, the world is only 6 paces wide. It is a world of shadows and amber light, where the only thing that matters is the grain of the birch and the heat of the soup. The craftsman reaches for a small jar made of birch bark, sealed with a plug of pine wood. Inside is wood oil, a mixture of linseed and resin he traded for at the coast during the last midsummer festival. He dips a clean rag of linen into the golden oil and begins to massage it into the spoon. The transformation is instantaneous. The pale, cream-colored birch deepens into a rich honey-gold hue. The swirling grain patterns, the flame of the birch, suddenly pop with 3-dimensional depth, shimmering as he turns the spoon in the firelight. The smell of the oil, sharp, clean, and earthy, fills the small space overlapping the scent of the simmering broth. He rubs the oil in with a vigorous, warming motion. The friction of his hand generates heat, allowing the oil to penetrate deep into the fibers of the wood, sealing it against the moisture of the many stews it will soon hold. This is the preservation of life. A well-oiled spoon will not crack in the dry heat of the tent, nor will it rot in the dampness of the spring thaw. It is now armored against the elements. As he works, he begins to hum a low, guttural sound that vibrates in his chest. It isn't a song with words, but a joik, a traditional Sami expression of the essence of a thing. He is joiking the birch, the fire, and the winter. The sound is grounding, a sonic anchor in the drifting world of the tundra. You find your head nodding in time with the hum, the boundaries between the present and the past blurring into a singular golden now. The broth in the pot is finally ready. The craftsman sets the newly finished spoon aside on a clean piece of leather, letting it rest as the oil settles, and reaches for 2 older, darker spoons tucked into the eaves of the tent. He lifts the lid of the cast-iron pot, and a cloud of savory steam billows out, momentarily obscuring his face. The smell is divine, the essence of the wilderness captured in a vessel. He ladles the thick, rich liquid into 2 wooden bowls, the sound of the liquid a heavy, satisfying splash. He hands one to you. The bowl is warm, radiating a heat that seeps into your palms. The wooden bowl in your hands feels like a living thing, its warmth a direct transmission from the heart of the fire. You take a slow, cautious sip of the broth. It is thick, rich with the rendered fat of the reindeer and the deep, earthy minerals of the tundra herbs. It tastes of survival. It tastes of a land that gives nothing for free, yet provides everything to those who know how to listen. The craftsman watches you for a moment, a glint of satisfaction in his eyes before he begins to eat his own meal. The sound of the wooden spoons clicking against the bowls is the only music in the tent, a rhythmic, domestic sound that reinforces the profound safety of this reindeer-skin cocoon. As you eat, you look back at the newly finished spoon resting on the leather. In the 1750s, an object like that is a treasure. It represents hours of focused meditation, years of gathered knowledge, and a deep respect for the mountain birch that stood guard over the valley for a century. It is not a disposable thing. It is a legacy. You realize that in this tiny tent, surrounded by 1,000 miles of ice, you are experiencing a luxury that the modern world often forgets. The luxury of a single perfect task completed without distraction. There are no clocks here, only the cycle of the wood, the fire, and the seasons. The craftsman finishes his broth and uses a crust of dried bread to wipe the bowl clean, leaving not a single drop wasted. He sets the bowl aside and picks up the new spoon once more. The oil has begun to soak in, giving the wood a matte, sophisticated glow. He takes a piece of soft reindeer suede and begins the final buffing. This is the moment where the craftsman says goodbye to the piece. He is removing the last traces of his own work and preparing the spoon for its life of service. The suede moves fast, creating a soft whistling sound as it glides over the curves and the hollow of the bowl. The light from the hearth is beginning to dim as the heavy logs settle into a bed of glowing white ash. The air remains warm, but the light is softer now, casting long velvet shadows that reach up toward the peak of the lavvu. The craftsman leans back, his task finally complete. He places the spoon in your hand. It is surprisingly light, yet it feels incredibly strong, as if the spirit of the birch has been condensed into this elegant form. You run your thumb over the coal rosing, the dark lines of the charcoal-etched patterns, and feel the history of the north beneath your skin. The world outside is still there, of course. The wind still prowls the frozen ridges and the aurora still flares in the indigo void. But inside there is only the cooling hearth and the deep, heavy silence of a job well done. You realize that you aren't just holding a utensil, you are holding a story of resilience, a fragment of 1750 that has survived the passage of time to remind us of the beauty of the slow and the handmade. Sleepy History with Tales is a sleep history storytelling platform created for entertainment, inspiration, education, and the promotion of positive emotional values. The craftsman reaches over and stirs the embers with a blackened poker, coaxing one last flare of light from the heart of the fire. The golden glow illuminates the interior one last time, catching the fine details of the finished spoon. It is a moment of profound stillness. You realize that this object born from a humble piece of birch is a bridge between the wild forest and the human hearth. In the 1750s, life in Lapland is a delicate dance with nature, and this spoon is a symbol of that harmony. It is shaped to the hand, seasoned by the fire, and blessed by the traditions of the ancestors. As the craftsman begins to pack away his tools, placing each knife and stone back into its respective leather roll, you feel a deep sense of gratitude. You have been a witness to a process that has remained unchanged for centuries, a process that values quality over quantity and patience over speed. The world outside the lavvu may be vast and unforgiving, but the internal world of the craftsman is one of precision, care, and quiet pride. You wrap your furs tighter around you, feeling the residual warmth of the broth in your belly and the comforting heat of the stones nearby. If this journey into the quiet corners of history has brought you peace, we invite you to become a permanent part of our community. Please take a moment to subscribe and like this video. It helps us continue to craft these immersive historical experiences for you. By joining us, you ensure that these stories of human resilience and artistry are never forgotten. Let us know in the comments what period of history brings you the most comfort, and we will do our best to take you there. The craftsman lies back on his own bed of furs, his hands finally still. He gazes up at the smoke hole where the stars are beginning to fade as the sky transitions from deep indigo to the palest of greys. The long Arctic night is not over, but the work of this particular night is finished. The silence is now absolute, broken only by the faint crystalline tinkling of the ice outside as it shifts in the wind. It is a sound like tiny bells, a lullaby for the tundra. You close your eyes, the image of the golden birch spoon burned into your mind's eye. The smell of the oil and the wood smoke lingers in your senses, a tether to this sanctuary of 1750. You feel the heavy, rhythmic pulse of the earth beneath you, a slow and steady heartbeat that has persisted through countless winters. Here, in the heart of the lavvu, you are tucked away from the chaos of time, floating in a sea of amber light and ancient safety. The fire is low, the work is done, and the world is at rest. As the craftsman's breathing falls into the heavy, slow cadence of deep sleep, you find yourself drifting in the liminal space between wakefulness and dreams. The fire has retreated into a collection of glowing rubies, casting a soft, rhythmic pulse of light across the interior. Every few minutes, a tiny pocket of sap in a dying ember gives a final muffled snap, sending a solitary spark upward like a wandering star. The heat is no longer a fierce wall. It has become a gentle, pervasive hum that wraps around you like an extra layer of wool. You realize that in this tiny tent, the boundaries of the self have expanded to include the wood, the hides, and the very air of the 1750s. The silence of the Arctic night is not a void, it is a presence. It is the weight of the miles of snow, the density of the frozen lakes, and the ancient patience of the mountains. Inside the lavvu, this silence is filtered through the lens of human warmth. You look at the finished spoon one last time before the light fades completely. It sits there, a silent sentinel of the night's labor. In the morning it will be used to serve the first meal of the twilight day, beginning its long life of service. It will be washed in the snow, dried by the fire, and held by hands that know the true cost of every calorie and every spark of warmth. The sheer simplicity of this existence begins to wash over you. In this era, there are no voices from afar, no echoes of a million distant lives competing for your attention. There is only the immediate, the texture of the fur, the scent of the cooling broth, and the knowledge that you are safe. This is the ultimate sanctuary. The craftsman's dog shifts in its sleep, its paws twitching as it dreams of the reindeer herds moving across the summer lichen. The animal's warmth adds to the collective heat of the space, a testament to the symbiotic relationship between man and beast in the high north. You feel a profound connection to the millions of souls who have sought shelter in structures like this across the millennia. The lavvu is a shape that transcends time, a geometry of survival that has shielded families from the Pleistocene to the present. As you surrender to the pull of sleep, the flickering aurora outside seems to fade from your consciousness, replaced by the internal glow of a mind at peace. The journey of the birch from a frozen limb to a polished vessel is complete, and so is your journey into the heart of the winter night. Sleepy History with Wesley combines the power of AI to reimagine fictional historical tales, bringing peace, relaxation, and positive emotional values to our listeners. The transition into the deepest part of the night is marked by a shift in the air's texture. The humidity from the cooking pot has long since dissipated, leaving the atmosphere inside the lavvu crisp and dry, yet remarkably still. You lie there, enveloped in the heavy, comforting weight of the reindeer skins, watching the very last of the orange light fade from the stones of the hearth. Even as the visual world dims, your other senses sharpen. You can hear the microscopic expansion and contraction of the birch poles as they settle into the frozen ground. A slow wooden groan that sounds like the tent itself is breathing. In the 1750s, the concept of a night is different during the polar night. There is no sun to mark the passage of hours, only the subtle deepening of the indigo sky and the rotation of the constellations around the North Star. This lack of external time creates a profound internal focus. As you lie in the darkness, the image of the craftsman's hands remains vivid, the way they moved with such economy and grace, never wasting a single motion. You realize that his skill is not just about wood, it is about a deep cellular understanding of the materials provided by the earth. He didn't fight the birch, he listened to it. He followed the grain, respected the knots, and allowed the spoon to reveal its own form. The smell of the oil on the finished spoon has now mellowed, blending into the background of leather and old wood. It is a comforting scent, one that speaks of preservation and care. You find yourself thinking about the life that spoon will lead. It will travel in a leather pouch across the high plateaus, it will stir the medicines that heal the sick, and it will be the first thing a child reaches for at the morning meal. In a world of fleeting moments, such an object is an anchor. It is a physical manifestation of a promise made between a human and the forest. You provide the life and I will provide the purpose. Outside, a faint rhythmic sound begins. The distant crump-crump of reindeer hooves digging through the snow to find the hidden lichen. The herd is moving nearby, their breath forming silver clouds in the moonlight. The sound is grounding, a reminder that even in the dead of winter, the cycle of life continues with a quiet, unstoppable momentum. You feel a sense of kinship with the animals outside. Like them, you have found a way to thrive in the cold, carving out a space of warmth and meaning in the middle of a frozen wilderness. The craftsman stirs slightly in his sleep, the soft rustle of his furs sounding like a whisper in the dark. He is at peace, his work for the day etched into the very fabric of the tent's history. You let your own thoughts drift away, following the rising heat of the cooling embers toward the smoke hole and out into the vast, silent Arctic night. The world is large, but you are tucked away in its most gentle corner. The absolute stillness of the midwinter night has reached its peak. At this hour, the world outside is so silent that you can almost hear the shimmer of the stars. Inside the lavvu, the air is a gentle blanket of lingering warmth. You are cradled in the very center of a vast frozen wilderness, yet you have never felt more at home. The journey of the spoon is now complete, but the lesson it taught remains, that beauty is found in patience, and safety is built with one's own two hands. This sanctuary in 1750 is a reminder that even in the harshest winters of our lives, there is always a hearth to be found and a craft to be mastered. If these stories of ancient warmth and quiet craftsmanship help you find your own inner peace, please consider supporting our work. You can subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who needs a moment of absolute calm. Your engagement allows us to continue weaving these historical tapestries of sound and spirit. Don't forget to click the notification bell to join us for our next journey into the hushed whispers of the past. The final glow of the embers has vanished, leaving only the scent of the wood and the deep velvet darkness. Your mind is clear, your body is heavy with relaxation, and the spirit of the north has settled into your heart. The craftsman, the fire, and the birch have all played their parts. Now it is time for the rest that only a winter night can provide. You are safe, you are warm, you are exactly where you need to be. The darkness is not a void, it is a soft, protective layer between you and the world. Sleep now, knowing that the spoon is carved, the broth was shared, and the fire will be reborn with the first light of the coming dawn. The darkness inside the lavvu is not empty. It is a rich, textured presence that smells of history. As your eyes adjust to the absence of the hearth's glow, the world becomes a symphony of subtle sounds. You can hear the soft rhythmic puffing of the craftsman's breath, a steady meter that measures the passage of the night. Occasionally, a single drop of condensation from the smoke hole falls back toward the ash, a tiny PST that punctuates the silence. In 1750, this silence is the greatest of luxuries, a profound absence of the frantic noise that defines later centuries. It is the silence of a mind that has finished its labor and a body that has earned its rest. You think of the world beyond the reindeer skins. Out there, the snow is drifting against the base of the tent, creating a natural insulation that traps the heat inside. This is the architecture of survival. The lavvu does not fight the wind, it lets the wind slide over its conical surface. It does not fight the cold, it creates a pocket where the cold cannot reach. There is a deep philosophy in this, a way of living that emphasizes harmony and adaptation rather than conquest. The craftsman's spoon, too, reflects this. It wasn't forced from the wood, it was coaxed out by following the natural lines of the birch. As you drift closer to the edge of deep sleep, your mind wanders through the snowy forests of Lapland. You imagine the birch trees standing like silver ghosts in the moonlight, their branches heavy with hoarfrost. One of those branches is missing now, but it has been transformed into something that will sustain life. This is the beautiful exchange of the north. The forest gives a limb, and in return, the human heart finds a way to endure the winter. The gratitude you feel is not just for the warmth of the tent, but for the connection to something much older than yourself. The weight of the furs is a physical reassurance. They are heavy, thick, and retain the warmth of your own body, creating a microclimate that is uniquely yours. You feel the tension leaving your jaw, your shoulders, and finally your hands. The image of the swirling grain of the birch spoon remains behind your eyelids, a golden pattern that seems to mimic the flow of a river or the movement of the clouds. It is a reminder that there is a hidden order in the world, a logic of beauty that persists even in the middle of a frozen wasteland. The night feels as though it could last forever, and in this moment, you wouldn't mind if it did. There is no tomorrow to worry about, no tasks left undone. The wood is carved, the tools are stowed, and the hearth is waiting for the morning spark. You are a passenger on a slow-moving vessel of history, sailing through the indigo depths of the 18th century. Everything is still. Everything is exactly as it should be. The spirit of the craftsman's work has infused the air with a sense of purpose, making even the darkness feel like a productive healing space. The deep, rhythmic pulse of the Arctic night continues to beat against the walls of the lavvu. In the 1750s, the concept of darkness is not something to be feared, it is a season of restoration. As you lie perfectly still, you begin to notice the faint ethereal light filtering down through the smoke hole at the peak. It is not sunlight, but the reflection of the moon on the endless fields of snow outside, a cool silvery glow that traces the edges of the birch poles. This pale light catches the rim of the wooden bowl you used earlier, turning the residual oil into a soft, shimmering crescent. The craftsman's presence in the tent is a grounding force. Even in sleep, he possesses the quiet dignity of a man who knows his place in the universe. His life is dictated by the migrations of the reindeer and the ripening of the berries, a life that is difficult, yes, but profoundly honest. Watching him work tonight was like watching a prayer in motion. Every chip of wood removed was a deliberate choice, an act of creation that required both strength and extreme delicacy. You realize that the spoon he made is more than a tool. It is a vessel for the values of his culture, patience, resilience, and a deep respect for the materials of the earth. The smell of the tent has shifted once more. The sharp scent of fresh-cut birch has settled, replaced by the mellow, sweet aroma of curing leather and the faint, lingering spice of the herbs from the broth. It is the scent of a home that is moved with the seasons, a home that carries its history in its very fibers. You feel a sense of immense privilege to be here, in this specific pocket of time, tucked away from the march of progress. In 1750, the world is still vast and mysterious, full of spirits and stories that live in the wind and the trees. The cold outside is a physical power, a force that can shatter stone and turn breath into ice. But here, within the circle of the lavvu, that power is held at bay by nothing more than the skins of animals and the memory of a fire. This fragility makes the warmth even more precious. You pull the furs up to your chin, feeling the soft, insulating guard hairs of the reindeer skin against your cheek. The heat of your own body is trapped and reflected back at you, a silent dialogue between the living and the elements. You find yourself imagining the journey that Spoon will take once the spring arrives. It will be tucked into a woven belt, traveling across the rocky ridges as the snow begins to melt into 1,000 tiny streams. It will taste the first fresh milk of the season and the berries of the high summer. It is a companion for the journey of life. As this thought settles into your mind, the last remnants of alertness begin to dissolve. The world of 1750 is no longer a historical fact. It is your reality, a golden, smoke-scented dream that holds you in a state of perfect, unshakable safety. The silence is absolute, the darkness is kind, and the heart of the north is at peace. The heavy quiet of the small hours is a deep, resonant chamber. As you lie there, you begin to perceive the internal geography of the lavvu in a new way. Even without sight, your mind maps the space. The stack of split birch logs by the entrance, the smooth curve of the antler-handled knives in their sheaths, and the subtle slope of the walls that draw all warmth toward the center. In 1750, the layout of this home is dictated by thousands of years of trial and error. Every object has a designated place, and every place has a purpose. There is a profound comfort in this order. It suggests that even in a chaotic and wild landscape, human intention can create a small, perfect cosmos of stability. The craftsman's dog, a thick-furred Spitz with a tail curled tight over its back, lets out a long, contented sigh in its sleep. You can hear the faint thud-thud of its tail against the birch twig flooring, a rhythmic sound of safety. This animal is not just a pet, it is a guardian and a partner, its keen ears tuned to the sounds of the tundra even while it rests. Its presence adds a layer of biological warmth to the tent, a reminder that in the Arctic, life clings to life. The shared heat of the humans, the dog, and the fading embers creates a microsphere of survival that defies the laws of the frozen world outside. Your thoughts drift back to the texture of the spoon. You remember how the craftsman used his own skin to buff the wood, the oils of his hand merging with the oils of the birch. This is the ultimate finish, a patina of human contact. In 1750, there is no separation between the maker and the made. The things we use are part of who we are. As you sink deeper into the furs, you realize that the modern world's obsession with the new and the disposable is a strange, distant fever. Here, the old is the reliable, the weathered is the beautiful. The spoon will grow darker and more lustrous with every year of use, absorbing the stories of 1,000 meals. The wind outside has dropped to a mere whisper. A soft brushing sound against the reindeer hides like the wings of a giant bird. The temperature has likely dropped even further, yet you feel only the deep, radiating glow of the firs. The cold has become a distant concept, a theoretical boundary that defines the limits of your sanctuary. You are floating in a sea of indigo and amber, protected by the wisdom of those who came before. The very air you breathe is seasoned by the history of the North, a mixture of cold oxygen and the warm, ancient memory of the hearth. In this state of total relaxation, your breathing slows to match the slow, tidal rhythm of the tent. Each inhale is a draught of clean, wood-scented peace. Each exhale is a release of the last lingering tensions of another century. You are no longer a guest in 1750, you have become a part of its fabric. The mountain birch, the reindeer, the craftsman, and the fire, they are all threads in a single, enduring tapestry of the Arctic night. The silence is no longer something you hear, it is something you are. The deep silence of the pre-dawn hours is perhaps the most profound silence one can experience. In the Lapland of 1750, there is no mechanical hum, no ticking clock, and no distant roar of traffic to anchor you to the modern world. There is only the low, sonorous vibration of the Arctic itself. As you lie in the stillness, the darkness seems to breathe with you. You find yourself thinking about the mountain birch tree again, the one that provided the wood for the spoon. You imagine it standing on a rocky outcrop, its roots gripping the shallow soil through centuries of storms. That tree didn't grow quickly. It grew with a stubborn, slow density, creating the very grain that the craftsman so carefully followed tonight. This slow growth is the secret to the wood's beauty. In the 1750s, people understand that the best things take time. A spoon cannot be rushed, a life cannot be hurried. The craftsman didn't look at his task as a chore to be finished, but as a conversation to be had. Every shaving he removed was a question asked of the wood, and every response from the grain dictated his next move. You feel a sense of envy for this clarity of purpose. In your own time, the world demands speed, but here, in the heart of the lavvu, speed is a dangerous thing to rush, is to slip is to waste. The air has become very still now, the kind of stillness that precedes a change in the weather. The scent of the leather walls is more pronounced, a musk that reminds you of the immense herds that roam the plateau. These reindeer are the architects of this culture. Their skins provide the shelter, their bones provide the tools, and their meat provides the strength to endure. You feel a deep ancestral respect for the animal whose fur now keeps you from the brink of freezing. The relationship is not one of exploitation, but of a profound symbiotic gratitude. As you shift slightly, the birch twigs beneath the firs crackle softly, a dry, clean sound. It is the sound of the forest floor brought inside. You are lying on a bed of history, supported by the very trees that define this landscape. The warmth of the tent has reached a state of perfect stasis. It is no longer a heat that you feel on your skin, but a heat that has moved inside you, warming your heart and your thoughts. The memory of the broth's taste, salty, rich, and wild, lingers as a comforting ghost on your palate. You are drifting now, the boundaries between your mind and the environment beginning to blur. You are the smoke rising through the hole, you are the oil soaking into the birch, you are the spark sleeping in the ash. The world of 1750 has fully claimed you. There is no fear of the dark here, for the dark is where the stories live. It is where the dreams of the craftsman take shape before they are etched into the wood. You surrender to the weight of the night, knowing that the sanctuary of the lavvu is a fortress that no winter can break. The silence is your blanket, and the history of the north is your lullaby. The stars outside the smoke hole have shifted their positions, a slow celestial clockwork that only the most patient observer would notice. In 1750, the stars are not mere points of light, they are the maps of the ancestors, the storybook of the sky. As you lie in the velvet dimness, you feel the sheer scale of the wilderness surrounding this tiny circle of warmth. For hundreds of miles in every direction, there is nothing but the blue-white snow, the dark clusters of stunted pine, and the frozen veins of rivers. Yet inside the lavvu you are not small. The craftsmanship you witnessed tonight has transformed this space into a center of the universe. The craftsman's tools, now resting in their leather roll, seem to hum with a residual energy. Each knife has its own temperament, its own history of edges ground and handles worn smooth by decades of palm sweat. You imagine the metal being forged in a distant smithy, the hammer blows echoing the same rhythm as the carving. In this century, every object is a testament to human endurance. There is no such thing as an ordinary spoon when every step of its creation required a battle against the elements and a deep collaboration with nature. The silence is interrupted by a soft whistling sound, the wind catching the edge of a reindeer-skin flap outside. It sounds like a low flute, a melody played by the Arctic itself. It reminds you that the safety of the tent is a conscious, maintained state. The craftsman will wake before the light returns to feed the fire, to ensure the continuity of this warmth. This cycle of care is the heartbeat of the North. It is a world where home is not a static building, but a set of practiced rituals that keep the cold at bay. You find yourself tracing the patterns of the colrosing in your mind, those dark, charcoal-etched lines that the craftsman inscribed with such focus. They weren't just decorations, they were a language of protection. The diamond shapes for the herd, the zigzags for the mountain ridges, a cross for the hearth. By marking the spoon, he was anchoring it to the spiritual world of the Sami. As you settle deeper into the furs, these symbols seem to float in the darkness before your eyes, weaving a protective net around your sleep. The air remains sweet with the scent of the birch oil. It is a clean, honest smell that contrasts with the heavy, musky scent of the reindeer hides. This duality, the elegance of the craft and the raw utility of the survival gear, is the essence of 1750. You feel a profound sense of clarity. The complexities of your own life seem to melt away, leaving only the essential truths of heat, food, and shelter. You are learning the lesson of the winter, that when the world is at its coldest, the human spirit must burn at its brightest. The silence is now a heavy, warm liquid filling the tent and pressing you gently into the earth. You are part of the story now, a quiet witness to the enduring magic of the handmade world. The world remains suspended in the deep indigo cradle of the Arctic night. Inside the lavvu, the air has reached a point of perfect stillness, a crystalline silence that feels as though it could shatter if you dared to speak. In 1750, this is the time of the great quiet, the hours when the spirits of the land are said to roam the tundra. You lie there, heart beating in a slow, steady rhythm that matches the cooling of the hearthstones. The warmth is no longer a localized heat from the fire, but a pervasive, living presence that has soaked into every fiber of the reindeer skins and every inch of the birch twig floor. You find yourself contemplating the nature of the craftsman's life. His wealth is not measured in gold or titles, but in the sharpness of his blades, the health of his herd, and the strength of the spoons he carves. There is a profound dignity in this self-reliance. Every object in this tent has a biography. That iron pot was traded for at a summer fair on the coast. These furs were harvested from the best of the autumn herd. That birch spoon was once a limb reaching for the midnight sun. In this era, to live is to be an artist of survival, and every day is a canvas of practical necessity and aesthetic care. The scent of the wood oil has now settled into a deep, nutty bass note, mingling with the ancient smell of the smoke that has permeated the hides over many years. This is the scent of a lineage. It is the same smell that greeted his father and his grandfather in this very spot. You feel the weight of these generations pressing down on you, not as a burden but as a protective layer. You're being held by the collective wisdom of those who learned how to turn a frozen forest into a home. The craftsmanship of the spoon is just one small expression of this vast ancestral intelligence. Outside, the aurora has likely faded to a ghostly white smear across the stars, but its energy still seems to vibrate in the air. You can feel the immense pressure of the cold outside, a physical weight trying to find a way through the seams of the tent. Yet the lavvu holds, the poles flex, the hides tighten, and the interior remains a sanctuary of absolute security. This realization brings a wave of peace that is almost overwhelming. You are in a fortress made of skin and wood, a bastion of human warmth in a sea of ice. As the darkness deepens into the final hours before the twilight of dawn, your mind begins to let go of its last anchors to the external world. The image of the craftsman's steady hands, the rhythmic sound of the carving, and the amber glow of the hearth merge into a single golden memory. You are no longer watching the story, you are the story. You are the warmth in the fur, the oil in the grain, and the dream in the heart of the winter. The silence is no longer an absence of sound, but a presence of peace, wrapping you in a cocoon that time itself cannot penetrate. The stillness of the lavvu has now reached its most profound depth. This is the hour when the frost outside grows its most intricate patterns, and the silence of the tundra becomes a physical entity, pressing gently against the walls of the tent. In 1750, there is a sacred quality to this time. The world is waiting for a sun that will not appear, yet there is no sense of lack. You lie in the dark, and your mind revisits the spoon, resting silently on its bed of leather. You imagine the tactile sensation of its handle, the way the craftsman smoothed the transition from the bowl to the grip until it felt like a natural growth of the hand itself. The craftsmanship you witnessed is a form of resistance. To create something beautiful in a land that is often brutal is an act of deep spiritual defiance. The craftsman didn't just make a tool, he made an ornament for existence. You realize that in the 18th century, the division between art and life was non-existent. A spoon was art because it had to be perfect to function. It was life because it was used every day. This integration of beauty and utility is the ultimate comfort. It suggests that even the most mundane acts, eating a broth, stirring a pot, can be elevated into something meaningful. The smell of the interior has evolved into a mellow, earthy perfume. The sharpness of the birch shavings has faded, replaced by the deep, resonant scent of the cured reindeer skins. This smell is the very essence of the north. It is a scent that speaks of migration, of the wind on the fells, and of the long, dark nights where the only light is the hearth and the stars. You find yourself inhaling deeply, letting the aroma fill your lungs and settle your spirit. It is the scent of safety. It is the scent of 1750. You feel a strange sense of timelessness. In this darkness, you could be in any century, yet the specific weight of the wool blanket and the texture of the furs tether you to this specific historical moment. You are a guest of the Sami, a witness to a culture that has mastered the art of living with the land rather than against it. The craftsman's steady breathing is a testament to this mastery. He does not fear the winter because he knows how to transform it. He knows how to take a piece of frozen birch and turn it into a vessel of warmth. As you drift on the edge of a deep, restorative slumber, the image of the fire remains in your mind, not as a roaring flame, but as that final glowing ember that refused to go out. That ember is the human spirit in the Arctic. It is small, but it is persistent. It is enough to keep the shadows at bay and the heart warm. You surrender to the velvet embrace of the night, knowing that you are protected by the skill of the hands you watched and the strength of the home that surrounds you. The silence is your final teacher, and it is telling you that all is well. The final stretch of the night brings a shift in the air's density. Outside, the temperature has dropped to its absolute nadir, that bone-cracking cold that turns the moisture in the air into falling needles of ice. Yet inside the lavvu, the microclimate remains stable. The heavy reindeer skins have absorbed the day's warmth and are now releasing it slowly, a thermal heartbeat that keeps the frost at the threshold. In 1750, this is the true meaning of wealth: a dry floor, a full belly, and a shelter that holds. You lie in the dark, feeling the immense, silent power of the Arctic winter pressing against your sanctuary, only to be rebuffed by the clever geometry of birch and hide. The craftsman's spoon, now fully cured in its oil, sits in the shadows like a sleeping talisman. You think about the kohlrosing once more, those geometric lines filled with charcoal. In the silence, you realize they are more than just patterns. They are a map of the craftsman's world. The interlocking diamonds aren't just reindeer. They are the concept of the herd, the collective life that ensures the survival of the individual. To hold that spoon is to hold a piece of a social contract that has lasted for millennia. Every time he uses it, he will be reminded of his place in the web of life that stretches across the tundra. The silence is so heavy now it feels like a soft weight on your chest, encouraging you to let go of the last threads of consciousness. Your mind begins to play back the sounds of the evening in slow motion, the rhythmic shrit-shrit of the knife, the soft bubble of the stew, the crackle of the birch bark catching fire. These sounds are the fundamental vocabulary of human comfort. They are the same sounds that would have been heard in this valley 1,000 years ago, and they are the sounds that provide the deepest medicine for a restless soul today. A sense of profound belonging washes over you. You are no longer an observer from another time. You are a participant in the long, cold night of the north. The craftsman's stillness is your stillness. The endurance of the birch is your endurance. In this 18th century cradle, the distractions of the future have no power. There is no tomorrow to plan for, only the coming of the light and the rekindling of the fire. The simplicity of this realization is the ultimate luxury. It strips away the unnecessary, leaving only the beautiful, the functional, and the warm. As you finally succumb to the deep, dreamless sleep that only the Arctic can provide, your last conscious thought is of the spoon's smooth surface against your palm. It is a symbol of a world where nothing is wasted and everything is crafted with love. The darkness is now a total, loving embrace. The fire is a memory of gold in the ash. The world is at rest and you are held in the heart of 1750, safe, warm, and utterly at peace. Sleepy History with Wesley is an immersive storytelling journey designed to help you relax and reconnect with the quiet beauty of the past. If this journey helped you find rest, please subscribe and like to support our craft. Sleep well, and may your dreams be as steady as the mountain birch. The time just before the first hint of twilight is known as the hushed hour. Even the wind seems to hold its breath. Inside the lavvu, the air has cooled slightly, but it remains sweet and breathable, a stark contrast to the biting crystalline ether just inches away on the other side of the reindeer hides. You are buried deep within your cocoon of furs, feeling the weight of the skins as a protective armor against the world. In the 1750s, this is the time of profound reflection, where the mind, stripped of the distractions of daylight, wanders through the landscapes of memory and myth. You think of the craftsman's hands once more, now tucked into his own furs, resting from a job well done. Those hands are a living library of movement. They know how much pressure a seasoned piece of birch can take before it snaps. They know the exact angle to hold a blade to peel a shaving as thin as a bee's wing. This knowledge isn't written in books. It is carried in the nerves and the muscles passed down through 1,000 years of winter nights. The spoon he created is a physical manifestation of that lineage. It is a bridge between the ancestors who first discovered the strength of the birch and the children who will one day inherit this very tent. The silence of the tent is now coloured by a very faint, distant sound, the rhythmic, muffled thump of snow falling from a heavy pine branch somewhere in the valley. It is a soft sound, yet in this absolute stillness, it resonates like a heartbeat. It reminds you that even while you sleep, the forest is alive and moving, adjusting itself under the weight of the winter. The world of 1750 is a world in constant slow motion. Nothing happens quickly, and because of that, every movement, the falling snow, the growing tree, the carving of a spoon, has a weight and a significance that we often miss in the rush of the future. You feel a deep physical sense of gratitude for the materials that surround you. the birch wood that provided the tool, the reindeer that provided the warmth, and the earth that provided the stones for the hearth. There is no waste here, only a continuous cycle of giving and receiving. As you drift on the very edge of sleep, the image of the golden spoon seems to glow in your mind, a small bright sun in the indigo darkness of the north. It is a symbol of human ingenuity and kindness, a reminder that we have the power to create beauty even in the most challenging of circumstances. The darkness is now a soft velvet curtain, pulling you down into a state of total surrender. Your breathing is slow and shallow, perfectly synchronized with the quiet pulse of the Arctic night. You are safe. You are warm. The work is finished, the story is told, and the long winter night is your sanctuary. Sleep now, held by the ancient wisdom of the 1750s and the enduring peace of the mountain birch. The deep, rhythmic cycle of the night has reached its final chapter. The air inside the lavvu is now at its most fragrant, a mix of cold, clean oxygen, the sweet linger of birch oil, and the grounding scent of ancient hearth fire. As you lie in the absolute stillness, you realize that the craftsman's gift was not just the spoon he carved, but the time he shared in the 1750s. To give someone your time and your focus is the highest form of hospitality. The spoon remains where he left it, a silent witness to a night spent in the pursuit of perfection and peace. A very faint, ethereal change begins to occur at the smoke hole. The stars don't disappear, but the deep indigo around them softens ever so slightly into a bruised violet. The blue hour is approaching that long, magical Arctic twilight that serves as a bridge between the stars and the hidden sun. You can hear the craftsman's dog stir again, its nose twitching as it catches the scent of the first morning breeze filtering through the hides. The world is waking up, but it does so with a profound, unhurried grace. You feel a sense of completion. This journey into the heart of a winter night in 1750 has done more than just tell a story. It has realigned your spirit with the slow pace of the natural world. The lesson of the birch spoon is now yours to keep, that even the simplest object, when made with intention and care, can become a sanctuary. The warmth of the reindeer skins, the taste of the rich broth, and the sight of the gleaming wood are now part of your own history, a mental refuge you can return to whenever the modern world feels too loud or too fast. The craftsman eventually stirs, his movements slow and deliberate. He doesn't rush to break the silence. Instead, he reaches for a small bundle of dry birch bark near the hearth, preparing to awaken the fire for the new day. The first spark he strikes will be a continuation of the last ember from the night before, a chain of light that has never truly been broken. You watch through half-closed eyes, feeling a final deep wave of relaxation wash over you. The day will bring its own work, its own cold, and its own challenges. But for now, there is only this: the smell of the bark, the promise of the fire, and the quiet pride of the finished craft. Sleepy History with Wesley is honoured to have been your guide through the snows of the 18th century. As the fire begins to crackle once more, we leave you in this state of perfect, historical calm. May your rest be deep, and may the spirit of the mountain birch watch over your dreams. Thank you for being part of our community. We look forward to our next journey together, through the mists of time and into the hearts of those who came before. Sleep well. The Arctic dawn does not arrive with a sudden flash of light, but through a slow, silent shifting of hues. Through the smoke hole at the peak of the lavvu, the deep indigo of the night gradually yields to a ghostly, ethereal violet, the signature light of the 18th century Lapland winter. In this profound stillness, the craftsman begins his first movements of the day. He is unhurried, his hands reaching out to touch the birch spoon completed the night before. He feels the surface. The oil has fully cured, leaving the wood feeling as smooth as silk, yet as warm as a living breath. A sharp, dry strike of flint echoes through the tent, piercing the morning quiet. A tiny spark settles into a nest of dry birch bark, and within seconds a curl of white smoke rises, smelling of sweet resin. As the small flame grows, it casts a soft amber glow across the craftsman's weathered face. He looks toward you with a subtle, knowing nod, a silent acknowledgement of having shared the long, frozen watch of the night. The spoon is now ready for its first meal, a vessel designed to carry the warmth of the hearth into the body, sustaining life against the sub-zero wild. Outside, the herd is stirring. The rhythmic, melodic clinking of copper bells on the reindeers' necks vibrates through the crisp air, echoing off the snow-covered ridges. The world of 1750 is waking up, governed not by the frantic ticking of clocks, but by the natural pulse of the land. You feel an immense weight lift from your shoulders. In this moment, happiness is stripped down to its essential elements: the presence of a fire, the security of a well-built shelter, and the simple dignity of an object made with patience and care. As the craftsman pours fresh water into a wooden basin, preparing for the morning's work, you realize your journey here is complete. You carry away more than just a memory of a distant winter. You carry the lesson of the great quiet. Each grain in that birch spoon tells a story of endurance, and every minute spent in this sanctuary has been a gift to a weary mind. Let this warmth settle into your spirit, much like the oil in the wood, acting as a shield against the noise and rush of the world outside. The fire is now a steady companion. The tools are organized and the air is filled with the promise of a new day. The mountain birch, having given a part of itself, lives on in a new form. You are anchored in this peace, tucked safely away in a corner of history where the only thing that matters is the steady rhythm of a life lived in harmony with the cold. The first true light of the Arctic dawn begins to bleed through the heavy reindeer hides, transforming the interior of the lavvu from a place of shadows into a gallery of soft golden textures. This is the moment of transition in 1750, where the internal world of the tent meets the vast waking world of the north. The craftsman has now fully revived the hearth, and a pot of fresh snow is beginning to hiss as it melts over the flames. The steam rises in a straight, ghostly pillar toward the smoke hole, merging with the crisp air of the morning. You watch as the craftsman reaches for the birch spoon one last time before the day's chores begin. He holds it up to the increasing light, inspecting the coal-rosing patterns he etched in the darkness. The charcoal lines, the diamonds, the zigzags, the ancestral symbols now stand out with striking clarity against the pale honey-coloured wood. He runs his thumb over the bowl of the spoon, a gesture of final approval. It is no longer just a piece of a tree. It is an extension of his intent, a tool that will feed his family for decades to come. Outside, the silence of the night is replaced by the morning sounds of the tundra. You can hear the dry, rhythmic crunch of heavy boots on the crusty snow and the distant, melodic calling of a neighbor to their herd. The air that drifts in through the flap is impossibly fresh, tasting of frozen pine and absolute purity. It is a reminder that in this era the earth is still the dominant partner in the human story. There is a profound sense of humility in realizing that your survival is tied to the strength of your stitches, the sharpness of your axe, and the loyalty of the animals outside. The craftsman hands you a wooden cup of warm infusion, the steam smelling of dried berries and willow bark. As the warmth spreads through your fingers and into your chest, you feel a final deep sense of anchoring. The journey through this winter night has reached its natural conclusion. You have witnessed the alchemy of fire, wood, and patience. You have learned that in the coldest reaches of history, the most powerful force is not the storm, but the small persistent warmth of a shared shelter and a task done well. As the world of 1750 prepares for its brief window of daylight, you find yourself lingering in this state of perfect, unhurried peace. The lessons of the birch, its resilience, its hidden beauty, and its quiet strength are now woven into the fabric of your own mind. The fire is bright, the spoon is finished, and the morning is kind. You are ready to carry this stillness back with you, a quiet ember of history burning steadily in your heart. The morning light has now fully established itself as a pale, translucent blue, casting long, soft shadows across the floor of the lavvu. The transition from the dream state of the night to the reality of the morning is seamless. In the 1750s, there is no jarring alarm, only the gradual brightening of the world and the deepening crackle of the hearth. The craftsman is now carving small slivers of dried reindeer meat into a cast iron pot, the knife moving with the same fluid precision he used for the spoon. This is the continuation of the cycle. The tool created in the dark is immediately put to use in the light. The spoon rests on a clean piece of hide, its golden hue standing out against the silver grey of the fur, looking less like an object and more like a piece of captured sunlight. You observe the way the light interacts with the tent's interior. Every pole, every stitch in the reindeer skins, and every soot-stained stone tells a story of survival. There is a specific kind of beauty in objects that are used until they are smooth. The wooden bowls, the bone-handled awls, and the leather pouches all bear the patina of constant contact. In this era, nothing is new for long, and old is a synonym for reliable. As you sit in this pocket of history, you feel the frantic layers of the modern world peeling away. The anxieties of digital existence, the notifications, the deadlines, the invisible pressures of a hyper-connected life seem absurdly distant. Here, the only deadline is the setting of the sun, and the only notification is the shift in the wind or the arrival of a storm. The craftsman hands you the spoon. For the first time, you feel its weight. It is surprisingly light, yet it feels incredibly solid. The balance is perfect. The handle fits into the curve of your palm as if it grew there. This is the secret of the master woodcarver. They do not impose a shape on the wood. They find the shape that the hand is already looking for. As you turn it over in the light, the kohl-rosing patterns seem to dance. The charcoal-filled lines are deep and permanent, a tattoo on the heart of the birch. You realize that this spoon will likely outlive the man who made it. It will be passed down, used by children and grandchildren, becoming a silent witness to the history of a family. It is a humble object, yet it carries the weight of a legacy. Outside, the temperature is still plummeting, but the air is exceptionally clear. You can hear the barking of the ice on a nearby lake, a deep, booming sound that echoes through the valley like distant drums. It is the sound of the earth expanding and contracting, a reminder that the land is a living, breathing entity. The craftsman listens to the sound, his head tilted slightly. He understands the language of the ice. He knows what it says about the thickness of the frozen water and the safety of the path ahead. This intimacy with the environment is something that cannot be taught in books. It is a wisdom born of 1,000 winters. The steam from the pot now fills the lavvu with a rich, savory aroma. It is a smell that promises strength and endurance. The craftsman takes a small portion of the broth and offers it to you using a different, older vessel, allowing the new spoon to finish its final setting period. As you drink, the warmth spreads through your limbs, chasing away the last remnants of the night's chill. You feel a sense of profound clarity. The world is large, the winter is long, but the human spirit is infinitely adaptable. Within this circle of birch poles, you have found a sanctuary that time cannot touch. The craftsmanship of the spoon was the anchor, but the silence of the night was the teacher. As the morning progresses, the lavvu becomes a hub of quiet, focused activity. The craftsman begins to prepare his gear for a journey to the main herd, located a few miles up the valley. He checks the bindings on his wooden skis, which are lined with sealskin to allow them to glide forward but grip the snow when climbing. Every piece of equipment is a marvel of pre-industrial engineering. The skis, like the spoon, are made of birch, chosen for its flexibility and strength. You watch as he applies a fresh coat of pine tar to the wood, the smoky medicinal scent filling the air and mingling with the smell of the cooking fire. In 1750, maintenance is not a chore. It is a ritual of respect for the tools that keep you alive. You find yourself drawn back to the spoon, which now sits prominently on the central hearthstone. It has become the focal point of the morning. It represents the victory of the human hand over the raw elements of nature. Last night, it was a rough-hewn branch, frozen and dormant. Now it is a refined instrument of culture. This transformation is the essence of the 18th century experience. Life is a constant process of refinement, turning raw hides into soft clothing, turning snow into water, turning silence into story. You realize that the peace you feel is not just the absence of noise, but the presence of purposeful work. When every action is directed towards survival and beauty, there is no room for the clutter of the mind. The craftsman's dog stands by the entrance, its ears pricked, watching the play of light on the snow outside. It is waiting for the signal to move. The dog's life is even simpler than the man's, yet it possesses a quiet dignity and an absolute presence. It does not worry about the past or the future. It exists entirely in the now of the cold air and the scent of the fire. You attempt to mirror this presence. You sit perfectly still, watching the way the smoke curls and disappears through the smoke hole. Each puff of smoke is a brief, grey ghost rising toward the pale blue eye of the sky. You feel yourself becoming part of the architecture of the tent, as steady as the poles and as silent as the stones. The light has now reached the back of the lavvu, illuminating the stacks of spare furs and the woven baskets used for storing dried berries and herbs. These baskets, made from twisted roots, are intricate and strong, echoing the patterns found in the wood carving. There is a visual language that connects everything in this space. The curves of the baskets, the lines on the spoon, and the seams in the reindeer clothes all speak the same dialect of the north. It is a language of circles and cycles, the circle of the tent, the cycle of the seasons, the circle of the family around the hearth. In 1750, you are never an individual standing alone. You are a point on a circle that stretches back into the deep past. As the craftsman prepares to step outside, he pauses and looks at the spoon one last time. He doesn't say anything, but his satisfaction is evident in the way he adjusts its position on the stone. He is leaving it here for a moment, letting the residual heat of the hearth finish the curing process. It is his gift to the house. When he leaves, the silence returns, but it is a different kind of silence than the one you experienced during the night. The night silence was heavy and protective. The morning silence is light and expectant. It is the silence of a house that is ready for the day. You remain in the warmth, a guest of time, watching the sunlight crawl across the floor, feeling the profound, unshakable peace of a world where everything is exactly where it belongs. The hour of the true morning has arrived, where the sun, though still hidden behind the jagged peaks of the horizon, casts a brilliant, reflected glow across the entire landscape. Inside the lavvu, the air is crisp but comfortable. You are left alone for a few moments as the craftsman steps outside to check the weather. The silence that fills the tent in his absence is rich and textured. You can hear the wood in the fire settling, the occasional pop of a resin pocket, and the soft rustle of the reindeer skins as they react to the slight pressure of the wind. This is the heart of the 1750 experience, the realization that even when you are alone, you are surrounded by the voices of the handmade world. You reach out and touch the edge of the birch spoon. It is no longer oily to the touch. The wood has absorbed the finish, leaving a surface that feels organic, almost like skin. It is warm from the proximity of the hearth. You think about the journey this spoon will take over the next century. It might be used to feed a newborn child, or to stir a pot of medicinal tea for an elder. It might travel hundreds of miles across the tundra in a leather pouch, survived by its owners and cherished by their descendants. In a world of mass production, we have forgotten the power of an object that is one of one. This spoon is unique in all of history. No other piece of wood has exactly this grain. No other hand has made exactly these marks. This uniqueness is a form of immortality. The craftsman's signature is not a written name, but the specific way he angled the bowl and the rhythm of his coal-roasing. Every time someone uses this spoon, they are shaking hands with the man who made it in the winter of 1750. This continuity of human touch is what creates the warmth of history. It is not just about the dates or the names of kings. It is about the persistence of the craft. As you sit in the quiet, you feel a deep sense of gratitude for this connection. You are a bridge between his world and yours, carrying the memory of his patience back into a time that desperately needs it. The craftsman returns, his breath a white cloud that quickly dissipates in the warmth. He brings with him the smell of the deep cold, a sharp ozone-like scent that makes the air inside feel even cozier. He begins to pack the spoon into a small protective wrap of soft calfskin. The creation phase is over, the utility phase has begun. He gestures toward the door, inviting you to see the world he has been describing through his work. You rise from the furs, your body feeling light and rested. As you move toward the exit, you take one last look at the circle of the hearth. The embers are now a soft, pulsing red buried beneath a layer of protective grey ash. They will wait here dormant but alive until the next fire is needed. Stepping out of the lavvu is like stepping into a different dimension. The light is blindingly white, reflected off billions of ice crystals. The sky is a flawless, hard indigo. The air is so cold it makes your nostrils sting, but it is also incredibly invigorating. You see the vastness of the valley, the silver ribbons of the frozen rivers, and the distant dark smudge of the pine forests. In the middle of this immense, beautiful frozen sea, the tiny lavvu stands as a monument to human resilience. You realize that the spoon was just a small part of a much larger masterpiece, the art of living well in a world that is indifferent to your existence. You take a deep breath of the 1750 air, feeling the stillness of the mountain birch in your bones, and you know that you are finally, truly at peace. As you stand outside the lavvu, the immense scale of the 1750 landscape settles into your soul. The air is so still that the sound of a distant raven's wingbeat carries across the valley like the rustle of silk. To your left, the craftsman is securing his sled. His movements a masterclass in economy and purpose. Every knot he ties is a legacy of ancestral knowledge, designed to hold firm even when the temperature drops low enough to turn iron brittle. You look back at the tent, the lone, conical silhouette against the blinding white, and realize that its true strength lies not in its weight, but in its ability to bend and breathe with the environment. The craftsman approaches you one last time, reaching into the folds of his heavy wool tunic. He pulls out a small, flat piece of smoothed antler, intricately carved with the same symbols found on the birch spoon. He places it in your hand, a parting gift, a token of the hearth. The antler is cool at first, but quickly warms in your palm. In this era, such a gift is a profound gesture of kinship. It is a reminder that in the vastness of the north, no one truly travels alone. We carry the warmth and the stories of those we have met in the circle of the fire. You realize that while the spoon stays with him to serve his family, this piece of antler is your own anchor to this specific moment in time. The sun finally crests the lowest notch in the distant peaks, sending a long horizontal spear of golden light across the snow. The transformation is instantaneous. The world shifts from a realm of blue shadows into a kingdom of fire and ice. The frost on the stunted birch trees ignites like 1,000 tiny diamonds, and for a few seconds the entire valley glows with an intensity that feels supernatural. The craftsman squints into the light, a look of quiet reverence on his face. In 1750, the sun is not a celestial ball of gas. It is the return of hope. The promise that the long dark will eventually break and the cycle of life will continue. You feel a gentle tug at your consciousness, a signal that your time in this century is drawing to a close. The vividness of the cold, the scent of the pine tar, and the weight of the antler in your hand begin to soften, merging into a singular golden sensation of peace. You take one final deep breath of the crystalline air, filling your lungs with the purity of a world before the smoke of the industrial age. You aren't leaving this place empty-handed. You are carrying back the stillness of the mountain birch, the patience of the carver, and the absolute clarity that comes from knowing exactly what is essential for a life well lived. The image of the lavvu begins to fade into a soft white mist. The sound of the reindeer bells grows fainter, becoming a rhythmic chime that lulls you back toward your own time. But the feeling of the fur against your skin and the glow of the hearth stay with you. As you settle into the deepest layer of rest, you know that the craftsman is out there somewhere in the vastness of the 18th century, using his new spoon to share a meal, his life a steady flame in the heart of the winter. You are safe, you are warm, and you are forever connected to the quiet strength of the north. Sleep now, for the journey is complete, and the dawn has found you. The transition back from the biting brilliance of the Arctic morning to the soft sanctuary of your mind is as gentle as a falling snowflake. As the visual of the 1,550 tundra begins to blur into the edges of a dream, the sensory anchors remain. You can still feel the residual phantom of the smooth birch handle in your mind's eye, the way the wood grains seem to flow like water under the craftsman's blade. Even as the sounds of the reindeer bells dissipate, They leave behind a frequency of calm that resonates in your chest, a steady metronome for your breathing. You find yourself contemplating the finality of the craft. In our modern world, we are surrounded by things that are built to break. But here, in this pocket of history, you witnessed the creation of something built to endure. The spoon wasn't just a project, it was a promise made to the future. That sense of permanence acts as a weight on your eyelids, pulling you deeper into a state of security. You realize that the most important thing the craftsman shared wasn't the technique or the tools, it was the silence. It was the ability to sit in a dark tent, surrounded by a frozen world, and feel absolutely whole. The scent of the birch oil and the cured hides lingers for one last moment, a fragrant bridge between centuries. It is an honest smell, devoid of anything artificial, reminding you that you are a biological creature belonging to the earth, just as much as the birch tree or the reindeer. This realization strips away the last of your modern tension. You are not a consumer or a user, you are a witness to the enduring beauty of human survival. The heavy furs of the 1750s have transformed into the soft weight of your own blankets, but the warmth remains identical, a fundamental primal comfort. As you drift into the deepest, most restorative stage of sleep, the image of the golden spoon remains as a small glowing icon in the center of your thoughts. It represents the idea that no matter how cold the world outside becomes, we have the capacity to carve out a space of warmth and meaning. The craftsman has now begun his journey across the snow, the skis hissing softly as he glides toward his herd, but his presence remains a guardian in your subconscious. You are part of the lineage of the fire-tenders, the makers and the dreamers who found peace in the heart of the winter. The narrative of the mountain birch has reached its final resting place. The tree that once reached for the stars in a Finnish forest now serves a family in a warm tent, and its story now lives within you. The silence of the Arctic is no longer a distance to be feared, but a home to be inhabited. Your heart rate is slow and steady, your mind is a clear, dark pool of indigo, and the history of the North has folded itself around you like a protective cloak. Sleep is no longer a destination, it is the quiet, snowy path you are already walking. In this final state of profound rest, the boundaries of time have completely dissolved. You are no longer in 1750, nor are you quite in the present. You are in the timeless space of the long night, where every soul who has ever sought shelter from the cold finds common ground. The rhythm of the craftsman's life, the carving, the fire tending, the waiting for the sun, has become your own internal rhythm. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to build, and nothing left to prove. You have reached the ultimate clearing in the forest of your thoughts. The image of the hearth's embers, now buried deep under the protective ash, is the last thing you see before the velvet curtain of sleep fully descends. Those embers are a metaphor for your own inner peace, a quiet, steady heat that doesn't need to roar to be effective. It is enough to know that the spark is there. The craftsman is now a distant figure on the horizon, a tiny speck of humanity against the vast, shimmering white, but he leaves behind a world that is slightly more beautiful because of the work of his hands. The silence is absolute now, but it is a living silence, filled with the potential of spring and the memory of the fire. You feel a sense of immense freedom in this darkness. It is the freedom of the mountain birch, standing tall and patient under the weight of the snow, knowing that the light will return in its own time. You surrender to the pull of the earth, your body feeling heavy and rooted, while your mind floats like a spark rising through the smoke hole, drifting up toward the silent, watching stars of the 18th century. The story has finished its work, the spoon is carved, the broth is finished, and the day has begun in a world far away. But for you the night is eternal and kind. You are wrapped in the wisdom of the ancestors and the warmth of the handmade world. There is no more noise, only the soft, distant whisper of the wind against the hides, a lullaby that has been playing for 1,000 years. You are safe, you are home, you are at rest in the heart of the North. Sleepy History with Wesley is honored to have shared this winter sanctuary with you. As the fire fades into the soft grey of memory, we leave you to the deep, healing sleep you deserve. May your dreams be carved from the finest birch and lit by the glow of the aurora. Until our next journey through the tides of time, sleep well. The stillness has now matured into a state of total equilibrium. In this quietude, your mind begins to perceive the unseen craft of the 1750s, the architecture of patience. You realize that the craftsman didn't just build a spoon, he built a relationship with time itself. In your modern life, time is often an adversary, something to be managed or saved. But here, in the heart of the winter night, time is the very medium in which the craftsman works. Each stroke of the knife was not a second lost, but a second inhabited. This realization acts as a final soothing balm, smoothing out the jagged edges of your subconscious worries. You find yourself drifting through the interior of the lavvu once more, but this time as a shadow, a silent part of the atmosphere. You notice the small details that escaped you before, the way the smoke has stained the upper poles to a deep, lustrous obsidian, the bundle of dried herbs hanging near the peak, releasing a faint medicinal sweetness as they are warmed by the rising air, the intricate weave of the root baskets that hold the family's modest treasures. These things are not possessions in the way we understand them, they are companions. They have been touched, repaired, and respected. This sense of being surrounded by friends rather than stuff creates a profound psychological safety. The darkness of the tent is now a deep, resonant chamber of memory. You imagine the stories that have been told around this hearth, tales of the great reindeer spirit, of ancestors who navigated the trackless tundra by the stars alone, and of the mountain birch that whispered secrets to the first carvers. These stories are the insulation of the soul. They provide a warmth that no fur can match. As you sink deeper into the furs, these half-remembered myths weave themselves into your dreams, providing a narrative structure to your rest. You are no longer just sleeping, you are participating in the long collective dream of the North. The physical sensation of the bed, the springy birch twigs and the heavy musky reindeer skins feels more real than any modern mattress. It is a connection to the earth that is both firm and forgiving. You feel the gravity of the planet pulling you gently, anchoring you to the floor of the valley. In 1750, you are never far from the ground. Whether you are walking, sitting, or sleeping, the earth is always there, a solid and eternal presence. This grounding is the ultimate antidote to the weightlessness of modern anxiety. You are rooted, you are heavy, and you are exactly where you are meant to be. As the last flickers of conscious thought begin to dim, you see the craftsman's silhouette one last time through the open flap of the tent. He is a small figure against the vast, glowing white of the morning, but he moves with a quiet confidence that speaks of a man at home in his world. He carries the spoon, the knife, and the memory of the fire. He is the guardian of the craft, and you are the guardian of the story. The two worlds, the frozen reality of 1750 and the warm sanctuary of your sleep, have finally merged into a single, perfect point of peace. The journey is over, but the stillness remains. The final layers of the night fold inward, like the petals of a winter flower closing against the cold. You have reached the core of the experience, the place where language ends and pure sensation begins. There is no longer a you observing the 1750s. There is only the rhythmic pulse of the Arctic night, the slow cooling of the hearth, and the deep restorative dark. This is the 0 point, the moment of absolute rest where the body and mind are fully synchronized with the slow rotation of the earth. You imagine the birch spoon resting now in a leather pouch, protected and ready. It has finished its initiation by fire and oil, and it is now a part of the world's utility. There is a great comfort in knowing that things are being used, that they have a purpose, and that they are loved. This sense of rightness is the final gift of the craftsman. He has shown you that even in the most desolate landscape, a single human being can create order, beauty, and warmth. This is the truth you carry with you into the deepest part of your slumber, that you too have the power to create a sanctuary within yourself. The light outside the smoke hole has turned to a brilliant, pale gold, but it does not disturb you. It is a distant light, a promise for a future that is still many hours away. For now you are a citizen of the shadows, a guest of the indigo hour. The silence has become so thick it feels like a soft, warm liquid filling your ears and bathing your mind in a sea of tranquility. The thump of the falling snow, the hiss of the melting ice, and the crackle of the dying fire are the only music you need, a symphony of the essential. As you drift into the absolute dreamless void of peak sleep, the image of the mountain birch tree returns. It stands alone on its ridge, its branches heavy with frost, but its heart is warm and dense. It has endured the winter, and so have you. The craft is complete. The night has been honored. The story has found its end. You are safe in the cradle of history, wrapped in the furs of the ancestors, and watched over by the stars of 1750. There is nothing left but the breath. Inhale the cold, clean peace. Exhale the last of the world. Sleep. Sleep now. Sleepy history with tales bids you a final, peaceful farewell for this journey. The tent is warm. The spoon is made, and the north is silent. May your rest be as deep as the permafrost and as bright as the morning sun on the snow. Sleep well, traveller of time. The final vibration of the Arctic morning seems to settle into the very marrow of your bones. As you drift in the soft space between the 18th century and your own time, you realize that the craftsman's silence was his most profound tool. It was a silence not of emptiness, but of deep, focused presence. In the 1750s, the world doesn't rush to fill the gaps in conversation. It allows the wind, the fire, and the wood to speak for themselves. You find your own mind adopting this rhythm, letting go of the need to process, to plan, or to analyze. You are simply existing in the golden afterglow of a task well done. In this deep state of relaxation, you imagine the life of the birch spoon beyond this morning. You see it years from now. The wood darkened to a rich, burnished mahogany hue from decades of contact with reindeer fats and the warmth of human hands. It becomes an heirloom, an object that carries the DNA of this specific winter night across generations. It survives the harsh migrations, the spring thams, and the long summer suns. This sense of continuity, that something you witnessed being born will endure long after the fire in the hearth has gone out, provides a final, heavy anchor for your sleep. You are resting in the shadow of something permanent. The interior of the lavvu is now a hazy, beautiful memory. The smell of the smoke has faded into a clean, neutral scent of fresh air and old wood. The texture of the furs has become the texture of your own dreams, limitless, soft, and infinitely welcoming. You feel a profound sense of physical lightness, as if the gravity of the 18th century is gently releasing you, allowing you to float in the timeless void of a perfect rest. The craftsman, his sled, and his dogs have vanished into the white expanse of the valley, leaving you with the ultimate gift, the absolute stillness of a world at peace with itself. As you succumb to the final, heaviest wave of slumber, the image of the mountain birch tree on the ridge flickers one last time. It is no longer just a tree, but a symbol of resilience and quiet beauty. It stands as a guardian at the edge of your consciousness, its roots deep in the frozen earth and its branches touching the stars. You are safe, you are warm, the work of the night is finished, and the journey through the snows of 1750 has brought you exactly where you need to be. The silence is no longer a story, it is your reality. The journey has reached its silent zenith. Every word spoken and every image conjured has been a stepping stone leading you to this moment of total surrender. The 1750s have faded into a soft, monochromatic blur of white and indigo, leaving behind only the feeling of absolute security. You are tucked away in a corner of time where nothing can reach you. No noise, no stress, no demands. There is only the slow, rhythmic expansion and contraction of your chest, mirroring the ancient breathing of the tundra itself. You think one last time of the blue hour, that magical twilight where the earth and sky become one. This is the space you inhabit now. You are neither awake nor fully asleep, but suspended in a perfect crystalline equilibrium. The craftsmanship of the spoon, the heat of the broth, and the scent of the birch oil have all been integrated into your spirit. They are no longer external memories, they are part of your internal architecture, a fortress of calm that you can revisit whenever the world outside becomes too loud. You have learned that peace is not something you find, but something you carve, bit by bit, from the raw materials of your life. The embers in the hearth of your mind are now just a faint, comforting glow deep beneath the ash. They provide just enough light to see the path into a dreamless void, but not enough to wake you. The world is vast, the history of humanity is long, and you are a quiet, cherished part of it all. The craftsman has found his herd, the sun has claimed the sky, and you have found the rest you were seeking. There are no more parts to the story, for the story has become your breath. In the final moments before total unconsciousness, you feel a sense of profound gratitude for the birch tree, for the craftsman's steady hands, and for the silence of the north. The door to the 18th century has closed softly, leaving you in the warm, dark sanctuary of the present. You are rooted, you are whole, you are at peace, the long winter night is over, and you are safe in the arms of sleep. Sleepy History with Tales concludes this journey into the heart of 1750. The fire is out. The work is done. The snow has covered the tracks. May your dreams be as deep as the mountain valleys and as clear as the Arctic stars. Sleep now. Traveller, sleep well. The silence of the tundra in 1750 is not an empty void, but a living, breathing weight that blankets the soul in comfort. As you drift deeper into the firs, your mind begins to explore the lingering warmth of the hearthstones. Even though the flames have settled into a quiet glow, the stones, dragged from the nearby riverbed in the heat of last summer, have a memory of their own. They hold the fire's essence, releasing it slowly into the soles of your feet and the small of your back. In this era, everything has a dual purpose. A stone is not just a boundary for a fire, but a thermal battery that guards your life through the long, dark hours. You find yourself mesmerized by the geometry of the lavvu's structure. Looking up, the birch poles converge at the smoke hole like the ribs of an ancient protective creature. Each pole was chosen for its slight curve, allowing the wind to slip over the hide cover rather than catching it. You realize that you are resting inside a masterpiece of nomadic engineering, a home that can be dismantled in minutes but can withstand a gale that would topple a stone wall. This sense of flexible strength, the ability to bend without breaking, becomes the central theme of your relaxation. You let your muscles go slack, mirroring the supple resilience of the birch wood. The scent of the night has shifted again. Now that the wood oil has fully bonded with the spoon and the tools are put away, the air is dominated by the clean, sharp scent of the frost itself. It is a smell that feels like blue light, metallic, crisp, and pure. It filters through the gaps in the door flap, keeping the air inside the tent fresh and alive. You breathe it in, feeling it cleanse your thoughts of any lingering modern clutter. In 1750, every breath is an act of purification. There is no dust of industry, no haze of chemicals. There is only the breath of the earth, chilled to perfection by the stars. The craftsman's presence remains a comforting shadow in the corner of your vision. He is now sharpening a different blade, the rhythmic swish-swish of the whetstone acting as a hypnotic lullaby. This is the constant work of the North, preparing for the next moment, the next cut, the next journey. But it is done without anxiety. It is a meditative state of being where the hands are busy so the mind can be still. You adopt this stillness, feeling the heavy rhythmic pulse of your heart sync with the sliding of the stone. You are a part of this functional piece, a witness to the beauty of a life where every action is meaningful. The transition from the early morning light into the steady glow of the sun weight is a period of immense psychological depth. In the 1750s, during the weeks when the sun never quite rises above the horizon, the world exists in a permanent state of twilight. This blue hour stretched into a blue day creates a sense of living inside a dream. As you lie in the lavvu, the light reflecting off the snow outside casts a soft sapphire glow onto the interior hides. This blue light is gentle on the eyes, encouraging a state of deep, introspective calm. It feels as though the universe has dimmed its lights just for you, creating a private sanctuary in the middle of the frozen wild. You think of the mountain birch tree again, the one that provided the wood for the spoon. You imagine its roots deep beneath the permafrost, holding onto the earth with a grip that has lasted centuries. In the winter, the tree goes into a state of cold sleep, its sap thickening, its life force drawing inward to its core. You are doing the same. You are drawing your energy away from the external world, away from the noise and the light, and into the warm, safe center of your being. The resilience of the birch is now your resilience. You are standing strong against the cold, not by fighting it, but by embracing the stillness it brings. The craftsman has finished sharpening his blades and now begins to pack his pulka, the small boat-like sled used for transport. The sound of leather straps being pulled tight and the soft thud of equipment being settled into the wood provides a final, comforting soundscape. It is the sound of readiness. Soon, he will leave the tent to tend to the reindeer, and the lavvu will be entirely yours. The prospect of being the lone inhabitant of this warm circle in the ice is not frightening. It is an invitation to total solitude. In 1750, solitude is not loneliness. It is a profound connection with the self and the land. You feel the weight of the reindeer skins becoming even more substantial, pressing you into the earth with a loving firmness. These skins with their hollow core hairs are the ultimate insulators, trapping your body heat and reflecting it back to you. You are floating in a bubble of your own warmth, protected by the life of the herd. The outside world, with its biting winds and infinite ice, feels like a distant memory, a story told in a book you have already closed. The only reality is the warmth of the fur, the blue light on the wall, and the slow, steady rhythm of your breathing. You are slipping into the deepest layer of the north, where time stands still and the heart finds its home. The silence that follows the craftsman's final preparations is a rare and precious substance. You hear the soft hiss of his skis as they meet the frozen crust of the snow outside, a sound that quickly fades into the distance until there is nothing left but the internal symphony of the lavvu. In 1750, being left alone in the heart of the tundra is the ultimate initiation into the spirit of the land. The tent becomes a living organism around you. You can hear the birch poles creaking ever so slightly as they settle under the weight of the frost, a sound like a giant breathing in his sleep. This is the sound of absolute safety, a structure that knows how to move with the world rather than resisting it. Your attention drifts to the smoke hole once again, where the indigo sky is now a vibrant electric violet. A stray snowflake, caught in a downdraft, dances down through the opening, twirling in the rising heat of the hearth before vanishing into a tiny puff of steam. This small event, the meeting of ice and fire, is a masterpiece of natural theatre. It reminds you that even in your deepest rest, the world is in a state of delicate, beautiful motion. You find yourself matching your breath to the rising heat, feeling light and ethereal, as if you too could drift upward and join the stars that are still visible in the high, cold heavens. The lingering scent of the birch oil on the now absent spoon has left a ghostly, sweet fragrance in the air. It is the scent of potential. The spoon is now out there, somewhere in the blue light, performing its duty in the hands of its maker. You realize that everything in this 18th century world is a partner in the dance of survival. The tree gave its wood, the man gave his skill, and the fire gave its transformation. You, as the witness, give your presence. This interconnectedness is a profound comfort. It means that no part of this environment is truly separate from the others. You are woven into the tapestry of the tundra, a single thread of warmth in a vast icy weave. As the morning twilight deepens into a rich, saturated sapphire, you feel a final deep release in your shoulders and limbs. The blue hour has a way of dissolving the boundaries of the body. You no longer feel where the furs end and your skin begins. You are simply a center of awareness, floating in a sea of history and tranquility. The modern world is not just forgotten, it has ceased to exist. There are no machines, no clocks, no echoes of the future. There is only the long, slow pulse of 1750, the warmth of the stones, and the infinite starlit peace of the Arctic night. The fire has reached its most contemplative stage. The flames have long since disappeared, leaving behind a glowing landscape of red and orange embers that look like a city of light buried beneath a mountain of grey ash. This inner fire provides a heat that is more stable and enduring than any roaring blaze. You lie there mesmerized by the slow rhythmic pulsing of the light. It is like the heartbeat of the earth itself, slow and steady, reminding you that there is no need to hurry. In 1750, the concept of hurrying is dangerous. To live well is to move at the speed of the seasons, to wait for the wood to dry, and to wait for the storm to pass. You find yourself thinking about the ancestors of the craftsman, the people who first perfected this way of life thousands of years ago. You feel their presence in the curve of the tent poles and the weave of the baskets. They are the silent guardians of your sleep. They discovered the exact angle at which a hide must be stretched, the exact moment a birch branch must be harvested, and the exact way to build a fire that breathes. This collective intelligence is what allows you to rest so deeply. You are not relying on your own strength. You are leaning back into the strength of 1,000 generations who knew how to thrive in the cold. The stillness is so complete now that you can hear the tiny tinkling sounds of the frost growing on the outside of the reindeer skins, a microscopic forest of ice crystals forming in the silence. It is a fragile, beautiful music that only the most attentive ear can hear. This level of sensory detail is a gift of the darkness. When the eyes are rested, the other senses wake up, connecting you to the world in a way that is almost tactile. You can feel the density of the air, the vibration of the frozen ground beneath the twig floor, and the ancient energy of the stones. You are no longer just a visitor, you are becoming part of the landscape's memory. Your mind begins to drift toward the final, most profound level of sleep. The images of the day, the spoon, the craftsman, the blue light begin to simplify, turning into abstract shapes of gold and indigo. They swirl gently in your consciousness, a kaleidoscope of historical peace. You are being carried away on a slow, cold river of time, moving toward a place where even the concept of time is irrelevant. There is only the warmth, the breath, and the eternal sheltering sky. You are safe, you are held, you are at the very center of the quietest world imaginable. The mountain birch is your witness, and the night is your sanctuary. The silence within the lavvu has now reached its most crystalline form. As the embers pulse with a fading, rhythmic glow, you find your thoughts drifting to the very essence of the birch wood. In the 1750s, the Sami people knew that the birch was not just a resource but a relative. You imagine the sap within the living trees outside, currently stilled by the frost, waiting in a state of perfect patient potential. This winter sleep of the forest is mirrored in your own body. Your heart beats with a slow, deliberate strength, and your thoughts are as clear and deep as a frozen mountain lake. You are participating in the great hibernation of the north, a sacred pause that allows life to endure the extreme. You find yourself focusing on the tactile memory of the kohlrosing on the craftsman's spoon. Those dark, charcoal-filled lines were more than decoration. They were a language of protection and identity. You visualize the patterns, the interlocking triangles representing the peaks of the fells, and the flowing lines representing the hidden rivers beneath the ice. In your mind's eye, these patterns begin to glow softly, becoming a map of your own internal landscape. They guide you away from the noise of the external world and deeper into the quiet chambers of your own spirit. This mental map is your compass, ensuring that even in the deepest sleep you remain centered and secure. The air in the tent has reached a perfect, cool equilibrium. The sharpness of the early morning has softened into a mellow, breathable stillness. You notice the way your own breath creates a tiny, rhythmic cloud of mist that catches the faint violet light from above before dissipating. This cycle of breath, visible and then invisible, is the only clock you need. It tells you that time is not a line, but a circle. Just as the craftsman will return to the hearth, and the sun will eventually return to the sky, your consciousness will eventually return to the world. But for now, there is no return necessary. There is only the presence of the now, held within the sturdy birch poles of 1750. A sense of profound humility washes over you. You realize that the craftsman's greatest skill was not his ability to shape wood, but his ability to listen to it. He waited for the wood to tell him where it wanted to bend and where it wanted to stay firm. You apply this lesson to your own rest. You are no longer trying to force yourself to sleep. You are simply listening to the needs of your body, allowing it to settle into the furs at its own pace. The resistance is gone. You are as flexible and as strong as a seasoned birch branch, bending gracefully under the weight of the night's peace. As the blue hour begins to settle into a steady, midday twilight, the world outside the lavvu remains a masterpiece of monochromatic stillness. Inside, you are a passenger in a vessel of warmth, drifting through the currents of history. You begin to contemplate the concept of home in the 18th century. For the craftsman, home was not a fixed point on a map, but the space created by the hearth, the hides, and the family. Home was something you carried with you, a portable sanctuary of fire and story. This realization liberates you. You understand that the peace you have found here is not tied to this specific tent or this specific century. It is a portable sanctuary you can carry within yourself. The floor of the lavvu, composed of tightly woven birch twigs covered in skins, provides a subtle earthy scent that grounds your senses. It is the smell of the forest floor, brought inside and warmed by human presence. This scent acts as a bridge to the wild world, reminding you that even in your most sheltered moments you are never truly separate from nature. You feel the ancient energy of the earth rising up through the floor, a slow and steady vibration that matches the frequency of your own resting state. You are being recharged by the planet itself, your energy being replenished by the very soil and stone of the tundra. Your mind drifts back to the image of the reindeer herd. Miles away in the blue dusk, you imagine them huddling together, their thick coats interlocking to create a collective wall of warmth. This image of communal survival provides a final layer of comfort. You are not an isolated individual. You are part of a vast, interconnected web of life that has mastered the art of enduring the cold. Whether it is the reindeer on the fells, the birch on the ridges, or the craftsman on his skis, everyone is doing their part to maintain the balance. You, in your deep rest, are also doing your part, honoring the need for stillness and recovery. The light from the smoke hole has now faded to a deep, resonant plum color, signaling the return of the true night. The brief window of midday twilight is closing, and the stars are beginning to reclaim their positions in the heavens. You welcome the darkness as an old friend. It is a velvet curtain that shuts out the last of the visual world, leaving you with only the internal glow of your own peace. The journey has become a state of being. You are the fire, you are the wood, you are the fir, and you are the star. The 1750s have whispered their final secrets to you, and you have understood them all. You are ready for the deepest sleep, a rest without end, guarded by the mountain birch and the memory of the hearth. As the plum-coloured sky deepens into a profound, light-absorbing black, the stars above the lavvu begin to pulse with a renewed, cold brilliance. In the year 1750, these stars are the only true map, and their light is the only constant. From your position among the firs, you watch the constellation of the Great Bear slowly pivot around the North Star. This celestial clockwork is the same one the craftsman used to navigate the vast, featureless fells. The realization that you're looking at the same sky that has guided nomads for millennia brings a sense of immense, cosmic scale to your rest. Your own life, with its small worries and fleeting moments, is cradled within this eternal, revolving architecture. The internal temperature of the lavvu has now stabilized at a level that is perfectly in tune with your body's needs. The heavy scent of the reindeer skins has become a neutral background, a familiar and comforting presence that signals safety to your primal brain. You find yourself focusing on the small rhythmic sounds of the tent's hides vibrating in the wind. It is a low-frequency hum, a subsonic song of the north that lulls your nervous system into a state of total surrender. Every cell in your body seems to be exhaling at once, releasing the last microscopic tensions of the modern world. You are becoming as still as the frost-covered stones of the hearth. In this deep, liminal space, you contemplate the craftsman's journey through the snow. You can almost feel the rhythmic glide of his skis and the cold air hitting his face. But here, inside the circle of the poles, you are the guardian of the flame's memory. You realize that rest is not a passive state, but an active contribution to the balance of life. By resting, you are preparing for the energy of the future. You are honoring the stillness that makes action possible. This philosophy of the 1750s, where rest is as vital as the hunt, allows you to descend into sleep without a trace of guilt or urgency. The mountain birch outside understands this. It spends half its life in the quiet dark so that it may thrive in the brief golden summer. The darkness is now so absolute that the boundary between your closed eyes and the interior of the tent has vanished. You are floating in a warm, scent-filled void. The image of the birch spoon, once so clear, has now transformed into a pure sensation of smoothness and balance. It is a mental talisman you can touch whenever you need to feel grounded. You feel a deep, physical gratitude for the materials of the world, the wood, the bone, the fur, and the fire. They are the silent partners in this journey, the physical manifestations of a world that cares for its own. You are a part of that care. You are home. The final stage of the night begins with a subtle shift in the air's density. The wind outside has died down to a whisper, leaving the tundra in a state of absolute ringing silence. This is the silence of the heart of winter, a silence so deep it feels like music. Inside the lavvu, the last of the embers have been covered by a thick layer of insulating ash, preserving the core of the fire for the morning. You are wrapped in the hidden warmth, the heat that doesn't need to show itself to be felt. This is the ultimate comfort of 1750, knowing that beneath the surface, the life force remains steady and strong. You find your mind drifting back to the very first shaving of wood that fell from the craftsman's knife. You see it in slow motion, a thin, translucent curl of birch, smelling of spring and sap. That single shaving was the beginning of a cycle that has now reached its conclusion. You realize that your own journey through this night was like that carving process. The unnecessary layers of your stress and distraction have been peeled away, leaving behind the smooth, functional core of your being. You are the finished spoon, elegant, simple, and ready for whatever the new day brings, but for now, the day is a long way off. The sensation of the reindeer furs against your cheek is like a soft, heavy cloud. You feel the microscopic hollow hairs of the fur trapping your breath's warmth, creating a personalized climate of peace. The world of the 18th century is no longer a place you are visiting, it is a place you inhabit. The craftsman, the sled, the mountain birch, and the frozen rivers are all parts of your own internal geography. You have successfully crossed the bridge of time, finding a sanctuary that is immune to the rush of the future. You are safe in the hands of history, protected by the wisdom of those who knew how to turn a frozen wilderness into a home. As you finally cross the threshold into the deepest, dreamless sleep, the blue hour and the black night merge into a single shimmering sensation of light. It is the light of the spirit, the quiet glow of a mind that has found its center. The mountain birch stands guard on its ridge, its branches etched against the stars, a silent witness to your rest. The story has dissolved into the air, becoming the very atmosphere you breathe. There is no more past, no more future, only the eternal warm now. You are drifting, you are resting, you are whole. The winter night has claimed you as its own, and in its cold embrace you have found the greatest warmth of all. The silence of the deep night has now reached a state of perfection, where even the tiniest sound, the contraction of a birch pole in the frost, is absorbed into the velvet darkness. In this profound stillness, you experience the great calm of the 1750s, a moment where the physical world feels as though it has achieved total equilibrium. Your body has become one with the firs, your weight evenly distributed across the springy floor of birch twigs. You are no longer a guest in this lavvu, you are its heart. The warmth you generate is reflected back by the reindeer skins, creating a closed loop of comfort that time itself cannot penetrate. In this liminal space you contemplate the endurance of the craftsman's lineage. You see the hands of his father and his father before him, all making that same precise cut into the mountain birch. This repetition across centuries is not a burden but a rhythmic dance with nature. It is a form of prayer in motion. As you drift on the edge of sleep, you feel this lineage of patience flowing through your own spirit. You are learning the hardest skill of all, the art of waiting. Waiting for the fire to warm the stones, waiting for the storm to pass, and waiting for the body to fully surrender to the night. The air near the floor is cooler now, carrying the faint, clean scent of the frozen earth. It is a grounding aroma reminding you that just inches beneath you lies the ancient soil of the tundra, locked in its winter sleep. This proximity to the earth provides a sense of absolute stability. In the modern world, we often live high above the ground, separated by layers of concrete and steel. But here, you are cradled by the planet. You feel the slow tectonic pulse of the north, a frequency that vibrates below the range of human hearing but is felt deeply in the chest. It is the sound of the world's endurance. As your mind prepares for its final descent, the image of the birch spoon returns, but it is no longer an object. It has become a symbol of the essential. In 1750, you do not carry what you do not need. Every item in the lavvu has earned its place through utility and beauty. You apply this philosophy to your own thoughts, letting go of the heavy, unnecessary cargo of your daily worries. You are stripping your mind down to its elegant, functional core. You are light, you are clear, and you are ready. The mountain birch stands silent sentry outside, its silver bark shimmering in the starlight, a testament to the strength found in simplicity. The hour of the deep indigo has arrived, the time just before the stars begin to fade. This is the quietest moment of the entire human story. Inside the lavvu, the air is so still that the only movement is the slow, rhythmic rise and fall of your chest. You are floating in a sea of peace that is as wide as the Arctic itself. The craftsman is a distant memory now, a shadow moving across the snow, but his legacy, the warmth, the shelter, and the spoon remains as your guardian. You feel a sense of profound protection, as if the very spirit of the mountain birch has wrapped its branches around the tent to shield you from the vastness of the night. You find yourself thinking about the inner hearth. In the 1750s, when the external fire was low, people relied on the internal fire of their own stories and memories. You stoke this inner fire now, visualizing the golden light of the birch wood and the smell of the resin. This mental warmth is unshakable. It doesn't depend on wood or flint. It is a part of you. You realize that you can carry this fire back to your own time, a hidden ember that will never go out. This discovery brings a final surging wave of relaxation. The world may be cold and the future may be uncertain, but the hearth within you is eternal. The darkness is now complete, a rich textured black that feels like silk against your closed eyelids. You are no longer perceiving the world through your eyes, but through the deep intuitive senses of the soul. You can feel the vastness of the tundra outside, the frozen rivers, and the silent forests all resting under the same canopy of stars. You are part of this grand frozen unity. There is no separation between the sleeper and the snow, between the birch and the breath. You are the north, and the north is you. In these final moments of consciousness, the 1750s whisper a last message of hope. They tell you that life is resilient, that beauty is found in the smallest details, and that rest is a sacred return to the source. The journey through the snow has brought you to the threshold of a dreamless, healing sleep. You are anchored in history, comforted by the craft, and held by the earth. The mountain birch is your witness, and the night is your home. You are sinking now, deeper and deeper, into the soft, warm heart of the winter. Sleep is the only language left. The indigo has deepened into a final, heavy black, the kind of darkness that only exists in the high latitudes far from the lights of any city. Within the lavvu, the air has settled into a perfect velvet stillness. You are no longer aware of the passage of time. The year 1750 has ceased to be a date and has become a physical sensation, a weight of furs, a scent of birch, and a profound, unshakable safety. Your mind is like the hearthstones. Though the flames are gone, you are radiating a steady, deep-seated warmth that keeps the chill of the world at bay. You have mastered the ancient art of the static journey, traveling to the very center of your being while remaining perfectly still. In this deep state, you imagine the roots of the mountain birch stretching down through the permafrost, finding the hidden warmth of the earth's core. You feel a similar connection, an invisible thread that anchors your spirit to the very floor of the valley. This grounding is the ultimate form of rest. In your modern life, your mind often flits from task to task like a bird in a storm, but here you have become the mountain. The winds of the tundra may howl outside, and the temperature may drop, but you are immovable, centered, and whole. The silence is your armor, and the firs are your sanctuary. You find yourself reflecting on the song of the wood once more. The craftsman believed that every piece of birch had a melody trapped inside it, and by carving the spoon he was simply setting that melody free. As you drift on the threshold of a dreamless sleep, you hear this melody not with your ears but with your heart. It is a slow humming vibration, the sound of growth, endurance, and quiet strength. It is the music of a life lived in harmony with the cycles of the sun and the moon. You let this vibration carry you further away from the surface of consciousness, sinking into the deep, cool waters of the subconscious. The heavy, rhythmic crunch of the snow outside has stopped entirely. Even the wind has held its breath. The world of 1750 is waiting for the next chapter of the season, and you are waiting with it. This shared patience is a form of intimacy with the universe. You are not waiting for anything specific, not for the dawn nor for the spring, but simply being in the wait itself. This state of pure existence is the greatest luxury of the 18th century. There are no expectations, no demands, only the breath. Inhale the scent of the winter, exhale the last of the light. As the final stars of the night begin their slow descent toward the horizon, the lavvu becomes a temple of absolute tranquility. You have reached the stage of rest where the body feels as if it has turned into soft, warm light. The boundaries of your physical self have completely dissolved into the reindeer skins and the birch-scented air. You are the air, you are the wood, and you are the ancient silence of the north. The craftsman's legacy, the simple, perfect birch spoon, is now a part of the architecture of your soul. A reminder that beauty and utility can coexist in perfect balance. You feel a deep, instinctive gratitude for the cold. Without the cold, the fire would not be so sweet. Without the winter, the shelter would not be so sacred. You understand now that the hardships of the 1750s were the very things that made life so vivid and meaningful. This perspective shifts something deep within you. You realize that the winters of your own life are not something to be feared, but seasons to be prepared for, honored and survived with grace. You are a craftsman of your own spirit, and you now have the tools, the patience, the focus, and the stillness to carve your own piece from the rawest of materials. The darkness is now a total loving embrace. It is the dark of the womb, the dark of the earth, and the dark of the stars. It is a place of total renewal. You feel your energy being restored, your mind being washed clean by the Arctic winds, and your heart being softened by the warmth of the hearth. The journey through the year 1750 has been a cleansing ritual, stripping away the unnecessary until only the essential remains. You are ready to enter the final, deepest chamber of sleep, where even dreams do not venture. It is a place of pure, white silence, much like the snow-covered fells that surround the tent. The mountain birch stands watch on the ridge, its silver bark catching the first almost invisible hint of the approaching twilight. It has been there through 1,000 nights like this, and it will be there for 1,000 more. You are part of its history, and it is part of yours. The fire is a memory, the spoon is a gift, and the night is a blessing. You are safe, you are home, you are at peace, the long journey is complete, and the only thing left is the absolute, restorative dark. Sleep now, in the heart of the north, where the only sound is the steady, quiet pulse of eternity. The darkness of the year 1750 has reached its most profound density, a weightless obsidian that feels like a physical presence against your skin. Within the lavvu, the air is perfectly still, holding the faint, lingering warmth of the hearthstones like a precious secret. You are no longer thinking. You are simply being. The concept of an individual self has softened, melting into the ancient landscape that surrounds you. You are the shadow on the tent wall, the scent of the cooling ash, and the patient strength of the birch poles. In this state of total integration, the modern world is not just distant, it is inconceivable. You find yourself focused on the silence of the snow outside. In the deep winter of the north, the snow acts as a celestial acoustic dampener, absorbing every vibration and leaving only the sound of your own heart. This heartbeat is the only rhythm that matters now. A slow, steady drum that echoes the pulse of the earth itself. It is a reminder that even in the most frozen reaches of history, life persists quietly and stubbornly. You feel a deep physical resonance with this survival. You are part of a long line of living things that have found warmth in the cold, and this shared history provides a final heavy layer of security. The image of the mountain birch returns once more, but it is no longer just a tree on a ridge. It is a symbol of the inner root. You imagine your own spirit stretching downward, anchoring itself in the bedrock of your most fundamental values. Like the birch, You are built to withstand the gale. You are designed to endure the dark. This realization brings a sense of absolute power, not the power to change the world, but the power to remain undisturbed by it. You are the master of your own internal climate. The firs, the fire, and the wood were merely the teachers. The peace they taught you is now your own. As you drift toward the final threshold of unconsciousness, you feel a sense of profound completion. The story of the spoon, the craftsman, and the winter night has done its work. It has carved a space in your mind where the noise of the future cannot enter. You are safe in the great pause, the moment of absolute stillness before the first bird of spring even dreams of singing. The darkness is your sanctuary, the cold is your guardian, and the warmth is your soul. The stars of 1750 have begun their final slow fade into the deep violet of the pre-dawn. This is the hour of the last watch, a time when the world is held in a delicate balance between the memories of the night and the promise of the day. Inside the lavvu, the air is crisp, but the heat trapped within the reindeer skins remains a solid, comforting barrier. You are floating in a state of pure, unadulterated rest. Every muscle in your body has surrendered to the gravity of the earth, and your mind has become as clear and still as the ice on the frozen riverbed. You think of the craftsman, now far out on the tundra, his silhouette a tiny, resolute point against the vast indigo sky. He is moving with purpose, his life a testament to the beauty of focus. But here, in his home, you are the keeper of the stillness. You realize that your rest is just as vital as his movement. One cannot exist without the other. This duality, the action and the pause, is the secret of the 18th century. You are honoring the pause. You are giving yourself permission to be entirely unproductive, to be entirely still, and to be entirely at peace. The fragrance of the birch wood has become a part of your very breath. It is a clean, honest scent that speaks of the resilience of the forest. It is the smell of endurance. As you breathe it in, you feel your spirit becoming as resilient as the mountain birch itself, flexible, strong, and deeply rooted. The blue hour is coming, that brief period of ethereal light that precedes the sun. But you're not waiting for it. You are content in the dark. You have found a home in the shadows, a place where the soul can replenish itself without the distraction of the light. In these final moments of awareness, the boundaries of time disappear completely. You are everywhere and nowhere. You are in a tent in 1750, and you are in your own bed in the present. The two realities have merged into a single, shimmering point of tranquility. The craftsman's gift, the lesson of the birch, is now a part of your permanent architecture. You have survived the long night, not by fighting the cold, but by becoming the warmth. You are ready now. The journey is over, and the rest is infinite. The mountain birch stands silent sentry on the ridge, and the night has finally beautifully claimed its own sleep, sleep, sleep. The absolute zenith of the night has arrived, a time when the world of 1750 feels as though it is held in a crystalline suspension. Inside the lavvu, the air is the purest it will ever be, distilled by the frost and softened by the dying embers of the hearth. You are lying in a state of profound physical gratitude, feeling the way the reindeer skins have conformed to your shape over the hours, creating a personalized cradle of warmth. Every breath you take is slow and purposeful, a quiet exchange with the spirit of the north. You realize that in this deep darkness, you have found a level of clarity that the bright, noisy world of the future could never provide. Your mind drifts to the heavy wooden chests that sit at the edges of the tent, carved from thick planks of pine and bound in hammered iron. These chests hold the life of the family, the winter clothes, the dried herbs, the tools for the next season. In 1750, wealth is not measured in currency, but in the quality of your gear and the strength of your bonds with the land. This simplification of value acts as a final weight falling away from your heart. You don't need to be more, do more, or have more. You are enough, just as you are resting in the quiet dark. The mountain birch outside doesn't strive to be anything other than a tree, and in that simplicity it finds its majesty. The tactile memory of the craftsman's hands, rough, capable, and steady, remains a comforting thought. You imagine those hands resting now, perhaps folded over a heavy wool blanket as he takes his own brief rest out in the wild. There is a profound solidarity in this shared survival across the frozen miles, through the walls of the tent, and across the centuries. You are connected by the same fundamental needs: warmth, shelter, and a moment of peace. This connection acts as a soft, invisible blanket, layering over the furs and pulling you deeper into the indigo void of sleep. As the silence deepens, you feel a gentle rhythmic vibration, the sound of the Earth's internal clock. It is the slow tectonic shifting of the land under the weight of the winter, a sound that is felt rather than heard. It is a reminder that the world is a solid, enduring place, and that you are safely anchored to its surface. The mountain birch, with its roots deep in the stone, is your brother in this stillness. You are both standing fast against the night, waiting not out of anxiety, but out of a deep, ancient trust in the return of the light. The stars of 1750 have begun to shimmer with a faint, iridescent quality, a sign that the atmosphere is shifting. But here, within the circle of the birch poles, the sanctuary remains unchanged. You are floating in a pool of absolute tranquility, where even the concept of yesterday or tomorrow has no meaning. There is only the now of the firs, the now of the breath, and the now of the darkness. This is the true meaning of the great quiet, a state where the mind finally ceases its restless wandering and comes home to the body. You find yourself visualizing the grain of the birch spoon one last time. You see the way the growth rings are packed tightly together, a record of the lean, cold years and the brief, warm summers the tree endured. Each ring is a testament to resilience. You realize that your own life is much like that tree. Your experiences, both the cold and the warm, have shaped you into something unique and strong. This perspective allows you to view your own history with a sense of peace and acceptance. Every struggle was a layer of strength. Every winter was a preparation for the spring. The air near the peak of the lavvu is now almost indistinguishable from the air outside, as the fire's warmth has settled low near the ground. This cool, fresh canopy above you ensures that your head remains clear while your body remains warm, the perfect condition for deep, restorative dreaming. You feel a sense of floating, as if the tent itself has become a vessel moving through the star-filled sea of the 18th century. You are a voyager on the quietest ocean in history, moving toward a destination of total oblivion and total renewal. In these final, fading moments of awareness, you hear the distant, ghostly call of a snowy owl. It is a lonely, beautiful sound that punctuates the silence without breaking it. It is the voice of the wilderness, a reminder that you are a guest in a vast and ancient kingdom. You accept this role with humility and joy. You are safe, you are warm, and you are loved by the silence. The journey has ended and the dream has begun. The mountain birch is your silent guardian, and the night is your eternal home. You are sinking, drifting, falling into the soft, warm heart of the north. The silence of 1750 has now reached a state of profound density, like a heavy velvet shroud draped over all your senses. Inside the lavvu, the air has become completely still, with only the gentle warmth of the hearthstones radiating faithfully and patiently. You are no longer trying to think, you are simply being. The modern concept of self has softened, melting into the ancient landscape surrounding you. You are the shadow on the tent wall, the scent of the cooling ash, and the silent strength of the birch poles. In this state of total integration, the modern world is not just distant, it is inconceivable. You find yourself focusing on the stillness of the snow outside. In the deep winter of the north, the snow acts as a natural acoustic dampener, absorbing every vibration and leaving only the sound of your own heart. This heartbeat is the only rhythm that matters now, a slow, steady drum reflecting the pulse of the earth itself. It is a reminder that even in the most frozen reaches of history, life persists quietly and stubbornly. You feel a deep physical resonance with this life. You are part of the stream of beings that has found warmth in the cold, and this shared history provides a final, sturdy layer of security. The image of the mountain birch returns once more, but it is no longer just a tree on a ridge. It is a symbol of the inner root. You imagine your own spirit stretching downward, anchoring itself to the bedrock of your most fundamental values. Like the birch, You were created to withstand the storm. You were designed to endure the dark. This realization brings a sense of absolute power, not the power to change the world, but the power to remain undisturbed by it. You are the master of your own internal climate. The firs, the fire, and the wood were merely teachers. The peace they taught you is now your own. As you drift toward the final threshold of unconsciousness, you feel a sense of profound completion. The story of the spoon, the craftsman, and the winter night has done its work. It has carved a space in your mind where the noise of the future cannot enter. You are safe in the great pause, the moment of absolute stillness before the first bird of spring, even dreams of singing. The darkness is your sanctuary, the cold is your guardian, and the warmth is your soul. The stars of 1750 have begun their final slow journey into the deep violet of dawn. This is the hour of the last watch, a time when the world is held in a delicate balance between the memories of the night and the promise of the new day. Inside the lavvu, the air is crisp, but the warmth trapped within the reindeer skins remains a solid, comforting barrier. You are floating in a state of pure rest. Every muscle in your body has surrendered to the gravity of the earth, and your mind has become as clear and still as the ice on the frozen river. You think of the craftsman, now far out on the tundra, his silhouette a tiny but steadfast point against the vast indigo sky. He moves with purpose, his life a testament to the beauty of focus. But here in his home, you are the keeper of the stillness. You realize that your rest is just as vital as his movement. One cannot exist without the other. This duality, action and pause, is the secret of the 18th century. You are honoring that pause. You are allowing yourself to do absolutely nothing, to be entirely still, and to be entirely at peace. In these final moments of awareness, the boundaries of time disappear completely. You are everywhere and nowhere. You are in a tent in 1750, and you are in your own bed in the present. The two realities have merged into a single shimmering point of tranquility. The craftsman's gift, the lesson of the birch, is now a part of your permanent architecture. You have survived the long night, not by fighting the cold, but by becoming the warmth itself. You are ready now. The journey has ended, and the rest is infinite. The mountain birch stands in silent sentry on the ridge, and the night has finally beautifully claimed its own. Sleep, sleep, sleep. The absolute stillness of the pre-dawn in 1750 has a quality that modern ears rarely encounter. It is a silence that feels heavy and rich, like a thick fabric. Inside the lavvu, the air has reached a perfect, cool stability. You are cocooned in the deep heat of the reindeer skins, a warmth that feels organic and ancient. Your breathing has slowed to the point where it is barely a ripple in the atmosphere. You are no longer watching the story. You have become the quiet center of the story. The journey of the mountain birch, from a seedling on a wind-whipped ridge to a polished tool in a nomad's hand, is mirrored in your own transition from the chaos of the day to the sanctity of this rest. You find your mind wandering to the spirit of the grain, the idea that the wood remembers the wind that shaped it. In the 18th century, every object has a narrative. The leather of your boots remembers the animal. The wool of your tunic remembers the sheep. This creates a world of profound meaning where nothing is anonymous. As you drift on the edge of the void, you feel this sense of connection acting as a final psychological anchor. You are surrounded by friends, materials that have been gathered with respect and shaped with care. This environment of integrity allows your subconscious to release its final defenses. You are held in a world where everything has a place, and you have found yours. The darkness is now shifting from the black of coal to the deep, resonant blue of the Arctic twilight. It is a slow, majestic transformation that happens in complete silence. You realize that the craftsman is now part of the morning, moving with the reindeer through the frost, while you remain the guardian of the hearth's memory. There is a beautiful, silent pact between the two of you. He provides the movement that sustains life, and you provide the stillness that preserves it. You are the deep, quiet well from which the energy of the day will eventually be drawn. But that day is still a distant promise. For now, the blue light is merely a soft curtain, keeping the world at bay. As the blue light of the morning begins to seep through the seams of the lavvu, it reveals the frost that has crystallized on the inner side of the poles, a delicate, intricate forest of ice that mirrors the birch trees outside. This inner winter is breathtakingly beautiful and utterly fragile. You realize that peace, like these ice crystals, is something that forms in the quiet and the dark. It is a gift of the stillness. You watch as your own breath, a faint mist in the cool air, rises toward the smoke hole, a silent prayer of existence. You are a living flame in a world of ice, protected and cherished. The sensation of the bed, the layers of birch twigs, woven mats, and heavy furs, feels like the very foundations of the earth. You are resting on the labor of the forest and the generosity of the herd. This physical support translates into a deep emotional security. In 1750, you are never far from the sources of your survival, and this proximity creates a sense of honesty that is deeply restorative. You don't need to wonder where your warmth comes from, you can feel it in the fur. You don't need to wonder about your strength, you can feel it in the wood. Everything is transparent, simple, and true. Your mind begins to fold inward, like a map that has been fully explored. The landmarks of the journey, the mountain birch, the craftsman's knife, the golden spoon, and the indigo tundra are all being tucked away into the archives of your soul. They are yours forever now. You have earned the right to this rest. The long night of 1750 has taught you that the dark is not an end, but a beginning. It is the soil in which the spirit regenerates. You are sinking now, past the level of dreams, into a state of pure, restorative being. The mountain birch stands on its ridge. A silver ghost in the growing twilight, it has watched over the night, and it will watch over the day. It is a symbol of the eternal cycle, the endurance of the north, and the resilience of the human heart. The story has finished its work. The fire is a memory, the air is a blessing, and the stillness is your home. You are drifting into the absolute, a traveler who has finally reached the destination of total peace. Sleep. The world is safe. The night has been honored. Sleep, sleep, sleep. The blue of the morning has now deepened into a luminous, sapphire clarity, a hue so intense it seems to vibrate against the very edges of your vision. Inside the lavvu, the silence has taken on a physical weight, like the heavy insulating blanket of snow piled high against the outer hides, sealing you away from the whispers of the world. You find yourself floating in a state of perfect suspension, a liminal space where the year 1750 has finished its long, patient instruction and is now simply holding you in a gentle, rhythmic embrace. You think of the mountain birch tree one last time, not as raw wood to be carved, nor as a tool to be used, but as a living, breathing testament to the profound rhythm of the universe. It is a tree that does not argue with the winter. It does not struggle against the encroaching ice or lament the loss of its leaves. Instead, it accepts the frost as its essential partner, bowing its silver branches with a grace that only centuries of survival can teach. In this same way, you have finally accepted the profound stillness of the night. You have allowed its cold, quiet fingers to smooth over the frantic, jagged edges of your modern consciousness, erasing the static of a digital age that has no place here. You are no longer a visitor peering through the lens of history. You have become a part of its eternal, quiet foundation. The air remains cool and pristine, every breath you draw into your lungs feeling like a draught from a deep, ancient mountain well hidden away from the sun for 1,000 years. This is the air of a world without the hum of machines, a world where the only sounds are the soft rustle of a reindeer's thick coat against the tent poles and the distant, lonely sigh of the wind as it combs through the mountain passes. This purity has seeped into the very marrow of your bones, clearing away the mental clutter of 1,000 to-dos and the heavy anxiety of what-ifs. You find yourself arriving at the zero point of relaxation, a sacred place where you are neither here nor there, neither then nor now. You are simply a vessel for peace, held safely within the sturdy birch ribs of the tent and the invisible warm presence of the ancestors who sat by this same fire long before your name was ever spoken. The world outside may be vast, frozen, and unforgiving, but inside this small, sacred circle, you are infinite and you are warm. The texture of the reindeer fur beneath your hands feels like a map of a landscape you have finally learned to navigate. You can feel the density of the earth beneath the floor, the ancient granite of the fells reaching up to cradle your body. There is no urgency left in you. The craftsman's work is done, the spoon is finished, and the journey is complete. You are the stillness that follows the creation, the deep breath taken after a long day's labor. Every fiber of your being is now in sync with the slow tectonic pulse of the Arctic. You realize that the boundaries of your body have become porous, allowing the tranquility of the 18th century to flow through you like a slow-moving river of light. The shadows on the wall are not just absence of light, but presence of safety. The scent of the cooling hearth is not just a remnant of fire, but a promise of home. You are sinking deeper into the firs, further away from the surface of thought, drifting into the vast, dark and beautiful ocean of a rest that knows no time. The mountain birch stands guard, the stars begin to dim, and you are finally truly at rest in the heart of the eternal north. As the first true ray of sunlight, a pale golden needle of light pierces the smoke hole at the peak of the lavvu. It strikes the silver-grey ash of the hearth with a soft visual resonance. This light does not signal a harsh end to the night, but rather a quiet completion of a sacred cycle. The journey through the craft of the birch and the depth of the cold has reached its silent zenith. You have witnessed the spoon born from the raw wood, the warmth born from the ancient fire, and the peace born from the absolute silence. You realize now that you have everything you need. The spirit of the grain has become the spirit of your sleep, dense, strong, and undeniably beautiful. You are ready to close the final door on the world of analytical thought and drift into the profound, dreamless depths of the Arctic morning. The transition is effortless, a slow-motion descent into a state of being where the physical and the spiritual are no longer separate. The sensation of the heavy furs is like the weight of history itself, comforting, solid, and protective. You think of the millions of nights that have passed over these fells before 1750, and the millions that will follow, yet none are more important than this one singular moment of rest. The modern world, with its frantic clocks and artificial lights, feels like a fading dream, while the reality of the birch bark, the reindeer hide, and the stone hearth feels like the only truth that has ever existed. You are anchored in a reality that is older than language, a reality of breath and blood and the enduring earth. The mountain birch stands watch on the ridge outside, its silver bark glowing with a soft ethereal radiance in the growing dawn. It has seen many nights like this, and it knows with a wooden, patient wisdom the value of a rest well earned. The story is no longer a series of words or images. It has become the very rhythm of your heart, the slow expansion of your lungs, and the stillness in your mind. The year 1750 has whispered its final, most precious secret, that peace is not a destination to be reached, but a state to be carved out with patience, focus, and a deep respect for the materials of life. You have been shaped by this night just as surely as the craftsman shaped the wood. You are anchored now, held fast by the roots of the world. You are whole, mended by the silence and the warmth. You are home even in a place and time that is not your own. The silence of the north is your final lullaby, a melody composed of nothing but the absence of noise and the presence of spirit. The history of the earth is your pillow, soft and deep and filled with the memories of the land. You find yourself sinking past the last layers of consciousness, past the last echoes of the day, into the absolute restorative dark of the soul. The fire is a memory, the air is a blessing, and the stillness is your eternal sanctuary. The journey is over, the rest is infinite. Sink now, drift now, sleep, sleep, sleep. The final moment of the journey has arrived, as the boundary between the warmth inside the lavvu and the infinite cold of the northern tundra in 1750 completely dissolves. You no longer feel like a separate entity observing history. You are a part of that eternal flow of time. The faint morning light, carrying the pale blue hue of the frost, begins to seep through the animal hides, but it does not awaken your mind. On the contrary, it acts as a seal of confirmation that you have passed through the long night in total completion. Every whisper of anxiety, Every pressure of the modern world has been frozen and buried under meters of thick snow out there. Your soul is now as smooth and balanced as the surface of the finished birch spoon, without a single ripple, without a single sharp edge of tension remaining. This rest is not merely the silence of sound, but the silence of the spirit. You feel the presence of the craftsman as a silent blessing. He has left you the fire, the shelter, and the lesson of patience. In this suspended state, you find yourself dissolving into the grain of the tent poles, into the softness of the reindeer fur, and into an atmosphere so pure it feels sacred. This is the place where all journeys end and all life begins anew, in the absolute stillness of a winter morning in 1750. You no longer need to go anywhere. You no longer need to be anyone else. You are the peace you have been seeking for so long. The mountain birch on the high ridge now glows in the early light, standing tall as a loyal guardian of both the darkness and the light. It knows that you are ready to sink into the deepest sleep, a sleep where time has no power. Your breath merges with the breath of the wilderness, slow, gentle, and eternal. The story is finished. The spoon is tucked away and the fire has become warm ash, protecting the seeds of life. You are falling into a sweet void where there is only absolute security and enveloping warmth. The world outside may still be spinning, but here, in the heart of 1750, everything has stopped so that you may rest. Let your consciousness melt like a snowflake touching spring water. Let all memories of tomorrow and yesterday fade away, leaving only this pure presence. You are safe, you are sheltered, you are loved by the stillness of the earth and sky. The great journey has closed with one long, fulfilled breath. There are no more words, only existence. There is no more darkness, only rest. Sink deep down, fade away, sleep. Sleep deeply, sleep in the eternity of the North.
Sleepy History Tales is created for relaxation, entertainment, and sleep purposes.
The stories shared on this channel are inspired by historical events, daily life, and real periods in history, but they may be simplified, adapted, or narrated in a calming way to enhance the listening experience. This content is not intended to be a precise academic or educational source. While we aim to stay generally accurate, some details may be altered for storytelling flow and relaxation.
Please do not rely on this channel as a primary source for historical research or study.
By listening, you acknowledge that this content is designed to help you unwind, relax, and fall asleep.
Thank you for your understanding and support.